Hello to thee, this is GC McGee and welcome to my channel. GC McGee. Today I thought, as a GameCube enthusiast, it would be a really good idea to look at my collection as it currently stands. I have 113 GameCube games that released in Europe or the PAL region. They're all complete in box, with their original booklets and user manuals in fairly decent condition. I thought it would be a good idea to just look at my collection and explore what I've got and why I've got it. Maybe there's something that you remember playing that you really loved, something you've always wanted to play, or perhaps there's a game that you would love to see on stream sometime. So any comments or thoughts, just let me know. So first on the list, in semi-alphabetical order, is 007 Agent Under Fire. This was one of the first James Bond games to release on this generation of consoles. Perhaps it was the first one, actually. I remember having quite a lot of fun in multiplayer. The single player mode was quite tricky for me at the age that I was, but I don't remember the multiplayer being quite as good as, The World Is Not Enough or GoldenEye. And there were definitely some later releases that I much preferred to this one, but we had this on the PlayStation 2. I thought it was alright, and so I've got it on the GameCube. Next up, number 2, we've got... I'm not going to count the games, by the way, because I'm just going to lose count, and won't take long for me to lose count. So second game I've got is 007 Everything or Nothing, which was one of the later James Bond titles to release on this generation of consoles. Everything or Nothing was really cool. I really loved this game because it just really tried to be sort of much more cinematic than the previous games. Maybe it's because of my generation, but I've always really loved Pierce Brosnan as James Bond as well. So to have a really narrative sort of cinematic experience where Pierce Brosnan as James Bond was fantastic. So there's lots of scenes where you're playing in third person, abseiling down sort of skyscrapers, running away from explosions, all that kind of stuff. It's really cool. And actually there's a 2-player multiplayer mode, which I always thought was quite cool. It's quite fun. You can sort of take cover behind walls, and it almost felt like a kind of early Gears of War experience with that in mind. There was also a 2-player co-op mode, which I remember having quite a lot of fun with. It was his own sort of separate standalone co-op campaign, which is actually really cool. So really fun, and actually loads of replayability, loads of unlockables, all that kind of stuff. So I really look forward to revisiting this in the future and giving it a good old go. So then next up, I've got a third and final James Bond game. So this is 007 Nightfire, and I don't have From Russia with Love. I think that's the only James Bond game I don't have in the GameCube collection, but Nightfire is by far my favourite. It's absolutely fantastic. People absolutely adore GoldenEye, but I've always just thought Nightfire is just, well, as it should be because it came out later, but it's just superior in every way. Really fun, so you can play sort of 4-player, multiplayer, split screen. There's just a lot more to it, so it's a bit like Agent Under Fire in that sense, but you can control like little remote control helicopters and tanks, I think. You can like zip line. There's all sorts of gadgets you can use. So the single player is amazing, really replayable, tons of unlockables, which I really miss in games. But the multiplayer was just fantastic. You get kind of a little glimpse at it in the photo here. But essentially, there's just so many layers to it. There's lots of really cool special abilities and gadgets and different things to play around with. So really fun multiplayer experience. And to be honest, I feel like it probably is quite replayable to this day. I would argue, actually, there's not been a James Bond game quite as good as this one since its release. Everything for Nothing is fantastic, but just with that third-person perspective and it being more cinematic, it's a very different experience. So, yeah. Always been quite a fan of James Bond games, especially on the GameCube and on the N64 as well. So moving on, away from James Bond, we have got 1080 Avalanche. 1080 Degrees Avalanche. So this was a sequel, so that the original 1080 Avalanche came out on the Nintendo 64, and this is very much the sequel. So essentially it's just a better, sort of more modernised version of that. So it's got 4-player split screen. If I'm honest, I haven't actually played this game. I just know it's sort of one of the sort of quintessential snowboarding experiences on the GameCube. and it was a must in my collection. So I really look forward to playing this in the future. But you can see that it's 4-player split screen. There's moments in the game where you are trying to race away from an avalanche, as you can tell by the name. But yeah, really intrigued by this. It's got a lot of love online, so I just wanted to give it a good go. You'll see there's some SSX titles coming up a little bit later, which I really loved. But yeah, want to give this a go sometime. So there you go. Next up, Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance. I, like many other people, have had a wonderful time playing Baldur's Gate 3. Two of my best friends growing up were absolutely in love with this game and this franchise, Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. And they just had so much fun in a sort of co-op setting, just dungeon exploring, collecting loot, leveling up their gear, all that kind of stuff. And it's really good fun. My best friend came to visit not too long ago, and actually we played a little bit of this together. It was really wonderful, but unfortunately he lives a little bit further away. He lives in London. I'm in Southampton, so we just don't really get to play local multiplayer much, but it really was a good throwback to, you know, having your friends in the same room playing lots of games. It just hasn't quite been the same. Hopefully we'll get loads more sort of couch co-op local multiplayer games in the future, because I've been enjoying playing lots of Nintendo games with my kids. So yeah, really good. You explore lots of dungeons, lots of enemies, lots of loot, gathering, all that kind of stuff. Very different experience to Baldur's Gate 3, but it's really good fun. And I'm looking forward to playing through that properly at some point. I could only get so far through with my friend before we had to call it a night because we were knackered. Right, so next game, we've got Battalion Wars. So this is another game I have not played before. I'm aware that it's related to the Advance Wars series, which is incredibly popular, and rightfully so. And this is, you know, a game that came out before that, so it's got some really good reviews, even just sort of marked on the case itself. So you can see that you're sort of commanding lots of troops and armies. It looks a little bit different to Advance Wars. If you're a massive fan of Star Wars Battlefront, like I am, this is basically as close as you get to Star Wars Battlefront on the GameCube. So yeah, you command little troops, you control them, and you're trying to win the war. You're at war. But yeah, I think that's the best way of explaining it, really. You can sort of, there's tanks, there's bazookas, there's all kinds of troops to command, but it's very similar to Star Wars Battlefront, just without that kind of skin, I guess. Star Wars skin. So next up, we've got Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg. So this is a Sega game, which never really took off and got the love that maybe it deserved. I haven't played it properly myself, but one I'm definitely really keen to play on stream at some point in the future. It does have 4-player multiplayer, which is really cool, but essentially you play as, believe it or not, Billy Hatcher. You are rolling this giant egg around, as you might be able to see in some of the pictures. Not really. Here we go, this is what the back of it looks like. So essentially it's a platformer game, very sort of child friendly, and you're pushing this egg around and just solving loads of puzzles. So it's quite an interesting, unique mechanic within a game, but as you can see, made by the creators of Sonic. There's a lot of love for this online, but yeah, haven't played it yet, so looking forward to that. And you can even see that you get a free Billy Hatcher ringtone with this game, so just to remind us all how old we're getting. So I'm 33, the GameCube's just a few years younger than me, came out in 2001, I believe, so I was 9 years old when it came out in Europe, and yeah, fell in love. So next game, we've got Bomberman Generation. So really love Bomberman, played a lot of Bomberman games over the years, and so when there was a GameCube Bomberman, I was quite keen to give it a good old go myself. Growing up, I've played quite a lot of Bomberman games, especially on Game Boy Advance, etc. Lots of really good titles, some of them sort of more akin to sort of the classic Legend of Zelda games in terms of how you solve puzzles and that kind of art style. But this one, it looks more sort of arcadey, more sort of traditional arenas. You know, you've got this grid set up. And essentially, yeah, lots of 4-player multiplayer. And as a fan of Bomberman and as a fan of the GameCube, it's a game I didn't have growing up, but I was quite keen to have in the collection. So Bomberman Generation, I think it's fairly cheap to pick up too. But it's definitely worth having a go at that at some point. And I'm sure there's a lot of hours of multiplayer fun to be had with this. So yeah, next up we have got the original Burnout. Burnout was a franchise I really loved growing up. Didn't really ever play the first game. I believe it's sort of a much more sort of vanilla experience compared to some of the later entries that got a little bit more arcadey and chaotic, and it was more about sort of the chaos you could cause on the road as opposed to the racing. But Burnout, the original, it's 2-player. It's a racing game, and essentially it's all about sort of winning the race, but you can be a little bit more aggressive than that. So you can push the other players off the road, and yeah, it was a high-speed racing game. That was a really fun element of it, and I think what happened with this game was people absolutely adored the fact that it was a little bit more aggressive, which moves us on to the second game. So Burnout 2, which I much prefer. We didn't get any other Burnout games on the console, but Burnout 2, here it is. And you can see, even just from the art style, if we compare the two, you can see that they really lean towards the, oh yeah, to smash the cars off the road and cause chaos. So by Burnout 2, they're really sort of starting to play into that. There's a lot of kind of intense slow motion crashes where the cars are really destructible. There's lots of sort of game modes and sort of silly, there's unlockables, but there's also lots of silly game modes where it's all about causing as much sort of collateral as you can. So it's a really fun game, and yeah, you get these sort of cash junctions when you're sort of trying to accumulate as much damage in dollars as possible. It's a strangely satisfying game that I really loved growing up, and it would be good fun to play this on stream at some point too, to be honest. But Burnout 2, let me know in the comments below if you've had any amazing memories of the Burnout series at some point. But yeah, unfortunately, Burnout 3, etc. didn't release on the GameCube. It just went up to Burnout 2. Right, next, we've got our first big hitter. This is a game that I haven't played yet, but I am obsessed with the idea of it, and I cannot wait to play it. And actually, it's gone down in value a little bit as of recent, just because of the GameCube service on Switch 2. So we've got Chibi-Robo, which, as you can see, like all of these games, they're sort of complete in box, really good condition. And in fact, when I bought this, none of these were my childhood copies, unfortunately, because they all got sold to buy the next thing, as they always did. When I bought these games, they came with these lovely little personalised drawings that I felt was really important to kind of keep archived in the game cases themselves. So enjoy Chibi-Robo. And then he even gave, the seller gave me little tips that were about the particular games too. So it says, buy the 10-minute day timer sooner rather than later. So if you're watching this video and you've got some really great memories of these games, or some key tips for someone playing the game for the first ever time, just let me know, because it'd be super helpful. But Chibi-Robo is definitely one I am itching to play on stream. So for anyone who doesn't know, you play as a little robot, and you are wandering around the house, and you are trying to do lots of chores and help the family out. So it's got Toy Story vibes to me. It's like Toy Story and Katamari have a baby. So you cook, you clean, you annihilate, and it's a lovely little adventure where you're playing as Chibi-Robo, who I hope will be a character to play as in Super Smash Bros. In fact, I'm going to have a video about Super Smash Bros. Fighter predictions in the future. But I think with Chibi-Robo recently returning to the GameCube service online, I think they were just exploring how much love there is for Chibi-Robo. Right, next, we've actually got a game that I acquired today. So I went to a retro store that's local to me. I bought 5 games, all sort of, budget titles. This is called Defender. So I've not played this before, but Defender is essentially a 3D sort of modernised version of the original, the classic arcade game. So you can see it's got a 2-player mode as well, but essentially just like the original arcade game. So you're in spaceships, you're battling through space, and it just looks like a lot of fun. And it was a really good price, in pretty good condition, so I thought, yeah, why not? Let's add this to the collection. So Defender. And it's quite refreshing to have just a more casual video on the channel, because I think I spend quite a lot of time obsessing over editing, and sometimes it's just nice to chat games and just relax into that. So this is a game that fascinates me, that it even exists. I love the idea of it, and somehow as a kid I had no idea it existed. So this is Disney's Extreme Skate Adventure. So what's incredible about this game is, yes, it's Disney, okay? It's a Disney game that is characterised specifically by Tarzan, Toy Story and The Lion King, which I I don't know if anyone's aware, but I'm a massive Disney nerd. I always have been, obsessed with the Disney parks, got all the Disney films on the shiny cases, etc. But actually, these 3 film franchises are my favourite Disney franchises of all time. So having Tarzan, Toy Story and Lion King specifically in one game is already a massive winner for me. But what's really cool about this game as well is that it was developed by Activision using the same engine and same sort of setup essentially as the Tony Hawk's franchise. So yeah, it's a skating game, but it's a really good one. So it looks like it's for young kids. In fact, you can be 3 and still enjoy the game. But you can see on the back a little bit that essentially it plays just like Tony Hawk's. In fact, you've got the same sort of UI, you've got the same the font that's being used. I have played this a little bit, but not tons, and I can't wait to properly play this and play it a lot on stream because it's just right up my street. I love the Tony Hawk's games, love Disney, and it's just a breath of fresh air that you get a game like this and it's not just trash. So there we go. Disney's Extreme Skate Adventure. And if you haven't heard of it before, it's probably missed quite a lot of us, actually. So, yeah. I recommend if you're into Disney and if you're into Tony Hawk's. Next up, so whilst we're still on the topic of Disney, I haven't got many Disney games at all. I love Disney and would love to collect all the GameCube Disney games at some point. Even Disney sports basketball, as much as it's stupid expensive. We were talking about Tarzan earlier, and this is Tarzan Freeride. Okay, so this is one of the first GameCube games to release. It came out really sort of close to the console's launch. It might have even been a launch title, but I don't think it was. The game was available at launch. It was very limited. I think there were only a few, and it was sort of Rogue Leader and Luigi's Mansion and some others. Okay, so yeah, Tarzan Freeride, and essentially it's like a rail racer game. The graphics aren't great. I don't think the game's supposed to be very good, to be honest, but it's Tarzan and it's Disney and it's a little bit of fun. Doesn't take itself too seriously. And as a massive Disney fan, I will get all the Disney games in my collection at some point. So that's why it's here. And just the last one that was sneaking behind the rest of that pile is Donkey Konga. So I've not got the sequel. I know there was a 3rd Donkey Konga game that released exclusively in Japan, which focused primarily on sort of classical music, I believe. But Donkey Konga is basically a game where you play on Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong's bongos, and you play along to some popular classics, and then also some classical songs, and then also some Nintendo classic music. So it's a rhythm game. You have to clap and play the bongos along to the music, and it's really refreshing. It's really fun, and actually it can be played with up to 4 players with up to 4 sets of bongo drums. So really cool. It's quite a party game. It's quite a gimmicky game. It's certainly not the best game in the world, but it's just a really cool niche title that released on the GameCube, and I'm all for it. So you can see just from the back that you can play songs like Earth, Wind and Fire's September. You've got Wild Thing, you've got Cosmic Girl, Back for Good. There's all sorts of stuff. But you can have sort of jam sessions, and it can be really relaxing with everyone just drumming away and having fun, or it could be a little bit more tactical than that. So yeah, quite fun. I think this would be really good on stream sometime. And there are, yeah, like I said, 3 Donkey Konga titles. I haven't got the sequel. 3rd one's in Japan only. We're going on honeymoon to Japan very soon, so I'm hoping to pick up Donkey Konga 3 when we're there. So fingers crossed, and I'll be showing what I managed to collect soon too. Happy days. You never know, this collection might just get a little bit bigger. And for anyone who's not aware, there's also a game that I really want to collect called Donkey Kong Jungle Beat, which is it's a side-scroller Donkey Kong adventure game, but you play the bongos to... It's kind of a rhythm game still, where you have to play the drums to the beat, to a specific rhythm in order to support Donkey Kong through all of these different musical levels. So it looks really fun. That's something I'd love, but I just haven't got that in the collection. I was really tempted to get it today, but actually they only had a sealed copy with the original bongos in a box that had never been opened. And I just thought, that's so cool, but sealed, it's just a waste on me because I just want to play it. I don't want to just look at it forever, as much as I love the fact that they exist. So next up is a game that did not release in America. So it only released in Europe and in Japan, and it is called Doshin the Giant. So if you are in America or Canada, and perhaps you've never picked this game up, you probably recognise Doshin or Doshin the Giant from being a trophy in Super Smash Bros. Melee. And that's kind of the only representation he got on the GameCube outside of this game. So it reminds me a little bit of Black and White, whereby you play as a giant. You're basically a god. There's lots of minions that kind of worship you, and you can choose if you're going to be a good or a bad god. And that's generally the gist. I actually haven't played this, but this is a game that's quite niche, and I'm properly excited about playing this. And I'll play it for the first time on stream at some point too. So yeah, Doshin the Giant. If you've got any memories or interesting kind of things to share about this game, please do, because I think it's a highly underrated game, and I think it would really benefit from being on the Switch 2 service, because there's a lot of people in the world that just don't have a way of playing the game. As a Matrix fan, this generation of consoles, there were tons of film and TV adaptations, game adaptations. And so this is a Matrix one, and a lot of the Matrix games were genuinely really good. So this is Enter the Matrix. It is a game that is dirt cheap, especially considering it's on 2 discs. And it's fantastic. It's the combat's really good. The story is really good. It's a really fun game with lots of like bullet time, slow motion, some battling, and it's really refreshing, really fun, and it kind of paved the way for lots of really good Matrix games in the future. I was one of the people that really loved sort of the Path of Neo and all these other games, but they didn't release on the GameCube essentially. You can also, there's like a hacking system where you can kind of essentially hack into the console. Yeah, like a computer console within the game, where if you sort of are using all the correct commands, you can unlock a multiplayer mode. So for anyone who doesn't know, you can unlock a sort of side-scrolling 1v1 sort of battle mode where you can play as different Matrix characters and fight as if you were playing, Street Fighter or Soul Calibur, etc. So that's kind of how it plays, but it's just a really interesting way of hiding a multiplayer mode within a game. But you kind of feel like you've really hacked into the system when you've unlocked it. Back in the day when we didn't have the internet so much, it was a nuisance to try and unlock it. So yeah, Enter the Matrix, really good, really recommend it. I'm not sure how much it sort of lives up to everything today, but really cool. Next is a game that I was not old enough to play as a kid, and so I didn't. And the trailers used to scare me a little bit. This is Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem, which is to this day still very loved and very appreciated. So this is a really interesting game where, it's a psychological horror, essentially. I don't think there's really been any games like it that have come out since. So I've not played it yet. I'm really keen to play it, definitely on stream. I think it's going to sort of be a really good and interactive game to play on stream, because the whole point is that you're kind of going through different sort of parts of history, and where it's a psychological horror or thriller is that the game really is messing with the player. It really does a great job of breaking that fourth wall. Yeah, really playing with the player. So there'll be times in the game that I believe, a lot of people don't want to spoil bits, but for instance, it could be that the game is creating a sort of fake situation where the game's not working anymore, or the console's corrupted, or the game save's deleted itself, or all that kind of stuff. The game is literally designed to break that fourth wall and mess with your head and really kind of throw you off guard. So I just love the concept of it, and I think it's aged really well. And there's a lot of people that absolutely adore this game. So I'm really excited to play Eternal Darkness, and that was a must to have in the collection. Next is an absolute classic. People absolutely adore this game, and I didn't have it as a kid. Love Captain Falcon, but I'm really keen to get playing it on stream and get good at the game, because it's blooming hard. It's got a really massive reputation for being difficult, and it'd be awesome to crack it open and get good, because I have played it a little bit, but I haven't played it enough. It's really challenging, but I would love to ace this game and get really good at it. It's 4-player multiplayer, really fast paced, looks really good, and somehow it's a bit of a technological marvel in the sense that it runs at sort of 60 frames per second. So it just looks phenomenal for the time. And actually, we haven't had an F-Zero game since, or anything that sort of comes close to being like a sequel to F-Zero GX. So if you're a fan of Captain Falcon, a fan of racing games, and you don't have this game or haven't played it before, I highly recommend. I think there's a reason that it's so loved amongst the community. And I'm hoping that with this now on the GameCube Classic system, I'm really hopeful that they were testing the water and that we're going to see more F-Zero in the future. And I really hope as well that in the next Smash game we get another F-Zero character. So Captain Falcon's arch nemesis is Black Falcon, and I just think it'd be really cool to have another Falcon fighter essentially in the next Smash. Next up, I grew up playing a lot of FIFA football games. My dad supports Man City and is always really into football, and so we played quite a lot of the old FIFA games together. And this is the only FIFA game I currently have in my collection, but it was one of the first. So this is the only 2002 FIFA game, I believe, that came out on the GameCube. And it was for the World Cup in Korea, Japan, and it was really good. I really liked it. It's a bit sort of more condensed and a smaller scale game compared to some of the other FIFA entries, but as football games go, like the GameCube FIFA games were absolutely fantastic. I do feel like if you've got one of them, you probably have got them all. I will want to try and get FIFA Street and those games too at some point, but yeah, collected this one today actually. So this was in the little bulk of 5 games that I grabbed today, and yeah, it'll be a bit of a blast to the past, a bit of a throwback. I don't think I'll be playing these games all the time, but as sports games go, I just think the FIFA GameCube games I'm quite nostalgic for. Right, next up is the only Final Fantasy game that ever released on the GameCube. So this is Crystal Chronicles. A lot of Final Fantasy fans really sort of swear by how good this game is. I haven't played it yet. I know it's Game Boy Advance compatible, and it's up to 4 players can play it at once, but they need to have their own Game Boy Advances, I believe, linked up. So it's a RPG game. There's not many Square Enix games that released on the GameCube, but this is one of them. And yeah, people seem to really like it. I will quite happily give this a go at some point in the future. I haven't played many Final Fantasy games, so this will be cool. And at some point, I really want to get like 7, 8, and 9 on the Switch 2. And play them. But yeah, Crystal Chronicles, you can get it really cheap as well, actually. So I actually have a spare VIP card for Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, which is unscratched. So I've got 2 of these. So if anyone has Crystal Chronicles, really cares about the game, and perhaps doesn't have an unscratched VIP card, I'm more than happy. Just get in touch, and maybe I can try and send it out to you or something, because that'd be really cool. And I don't know, this has been really good, the channel so far, and that for me, and it would be nice to sort of find ways of giving back. So yeah, if that applies to you and you want a unscratched VIP card for Crystal Chronicles, then look no further. Next up is the second big banger in my collection. I did a short of this, well, getting this game not too long ago, but it's Fire Emblem Path of Radiance. So another game that's beloved, and I haven't played properly. It's available on the GameCube Classic system, and which has brought the price down considerably, which is fantastic for people that want to play this game. So this is the only Fire Emblem game that came out on the GameCube, to my knowledge, unless there was something else in Japan, but I'm not too sure. It is strictly one player. It's a JRPG. It's grid based in the battles as well, or at some points, but essentially this was the game that was responsible for bringing Fire Emblem over to the Western world. This game sort of took the world by storm, really. We were introduced to Marth and Roy in Super Smash Bros. Melee, and then when Path of Radiance came out in Europe and in America, in the Americas and Canada, etc., it was a real delight. People loved this, but as a kid I never owned the game. And it's just one of those games that I'm just desperate to give a go and to play properly. And for me to just better familiarise myself with Ike and all these other characters that I've grown to love through the Super Smash Bros. Series. And hopefully playing this game prior to the release of the new Fire Emblem game that's going to release on Switch 2 in the summer. So yeah, Fire Emblem Path of Radiance in really wonderful condition. So I'm really happy to have that one in the collection. You can probably see what's coming up next in the background, but there you go. So next is, this is a fun one. So this is Godzilla Destroy All Monsters. Sometimes it's even called Godzilla Melee, or Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee. And this game is surprisingly fun. So I never owned this as a kid, but I did rent it out a few times from my local sort of Choices store, which was basically like one of the UK alternatives to Blockbuster. And Godzilla you can play up to 4 player, and you will play as massive, Titan monsters in iconic cities across the world. So like you've got Tokyo, you've got New York City, etc. And you're just fighting in these cities and just destroying everything and everyone. And it's surprisingly fun. So you can kind of see the roster here of lots of different monsters. It's a really fun game. It's a really great crossover between sort of your classic fighting game, but you're in this world where everything's miniature and you're kind of really feeling the damage of the impact that you're having on everything around you. So it's it's a really refreshing game. It's not expensive to pick up, but highly recommend if you want a sort of a fun multiplayer party experience, or you're just a big fan of Godzilla. Yeah, so Godzilla, Destroy All Monsters, Melee. Next up is quite an expensive game, actually. I only played this recently. Haven't played it to completion, but I will at some point on stream. And this is Gotcha Force, which blows my mind that it wasn't more popular than it is. Just because, so Gotcha Force is essentially, it's a game that launched with the idea that it would be its own sort of anime series. So it has its own sort of animated cutscenes in the game. So it's a really high production value. So almost sort of on par with, Pokemon, etc. And so the animation style is fantastic. Yeah, loads of love and time went into this title. And essentially you just play as a series of different toys in a massive arena, destroying everything. So for me, it kind of feels a little bit like Zone of the Enders. It's that combat, that kind of fighting where you're in a sort of a small scale arena, you're playing as a toy and you need to just battle all the other toys and win. And you essentially progress through the game, unlocking different toys and different parts, and all the toys play in very different ways. You can fly, you can do all sorts of stuff, but you're going around collecting all the toys. So it's a bit similar to Pokemon in that sense too, in that it's a huge collectathon. But yes, it's really fun. It's quite repetitive, it's quite sort of mindless at times, but it's just a really refreshing, really fun title. It's 4-player as well, but it just wasn't half as popular as you'd think it would be. I just feel looking at it and playing it, it just felt really iconic, really unique, but it just didn't take off for whatever reason. But Gotcha Force, if you haven't tried this, I highly recommend it. And yeah, definitely something I'll be playing on stream at some point too. And so the next game, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, or the Sorcerer's Stone if you are in a different part of the world. So this was the first Harry Potter film. They turned it into a game. The game came out on PC first, I believe, and then because of the success of Harry Potter Chamber of Secrets on the GameCube, they decided to re-release the first game on consoles as well. So strangely, this, I believe it came out after the Chamber of Secrets. So this is based on the first film. It came out after the game that's based on the second film. But it's just a fantastic game. Lots of really good puzzle solving, lots of great exploration of Hogwarts. And it was just a really fun game that I've got really fond memories of playing with friends at sleepovers and stuff. And it's a really classic example of a game that's single player, but I've had so many hours of fun playing this game on rotation, taking it in turns to play, solving puzzles, collecting all the chocolate frogs and all that kind of stuff. It's a fantastic game and I highly recommend it. So Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. It's also getting rarer. So it's in the UK at the moment, it's about 50-60 quid in value, I would say. So yeah, if you're a Harry Potter fan or you love these kind of games, I'd recommend getting it sooner rather than later. We've now got Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. So you'll find with all the other Harry Potter titles on the GameCube, they're all kind of dirt cheap in comparison to Philosopher's Stone. But the only other Harry Potter game I currently have in the collection is this. There was also The Prisoner of Azkaban, based on the third film, The Goblet of Fire, based on the fourth film, and there was also a Quidditch game, which I don't have any of those games in my collection, but I will at some point. But Chamber of Secrets, the reason I prioritised this is because it plays very similar to the Philosopher's Stone. It's a fantastic game, really good fun. It just came out before, so it's not as polished, and but it's really good fun. And I think from the Prisoner of Azkaban onwards, the game style changed drastically, where you were sort of cycling between 3 characters that were solving puzzles, that kind of thing. But this was the second and last game where you're exploring Hogwarts freely, and it's just a really good single player title, so I really recommend it. And actually, it's got its own Quidditch mode that's really good fun too. So yeah, Chamber of Secrets. Next up, we have got our first Legend of Zelda game. So we haven't got all the Legend of Zelda games, unfortunately, but this is the Legend of Zelda Collector's Edition. And there's tons of games that are like this that came out in different kind of styles, I guess, or formats across the world. But in the UK or in Europe, this is a PAL sort of game that we had, a collector's edition, whereby it's really cool actually. So you get The Legend of Zelda, The Legend of Zelda 2, Adventure of Link. You get Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time and Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. And actually you got a playable demo of The Wind Waker before it released too. So really cool. So it's a good way of pushing the new, familiarising people with the old. And yeah, you just get a lot of amazing game for your money. So I've played Zelda 1 and 2 this way. I never played them originally, but I played it on this. I played Ocarina of Time to death and loved that to bits. But Majora's Mask is a game that I've never played, not properly. I got put off by sort of the time restriction, and it kind of scared me a little bit. I just felt sort of really terrified as a kid. But at some point, I need to play it properly. And actually, it was a game that it just felt so similar to Ocarina of Time that having completed Ocarina of Time, 100%ed it, etc. Then moving on to Majora's Mask, it just kind of felt like, I've kind of done this already though. So I don't know, I just lacked that oomph. So at some point I will play Majora's Mask, but I haven't properly played it just yet. So this will have to come out at some point, and I'll have to complete Majora's Mask, I think. So happy days, Collector's Edition. Quick disclaimer, I don't have all the Legend of Zelda games. I used to have 4 Sword Adventures, but I don't have it currently in my collection because I needed to sell some bits to make some money to go on this honeymoon. So Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. This is a huge game. I've not played this game, which blows my mind, because I'm pretty confident it will be sort of my favourite Zelda game to date. Was less a fan of sort of all the free roamy kind of exploration that came with Breath of the Wild, whereas this is like a reimagined sort of, Ocarina of Time, so I feel like this would be right up my street. So yeah, this is Twilight Princess. Looked wonderful, played wonderfully, and it's just immensely popular. People are constantly demanding that this makes a return to the Switch or Switch 2. I don't really know what else to say. It's a fantastic game that's very much loved. And I can't wait to play this properly. I really can't. I just think it'll be fantastic. Big thing about this game is that there's like a kind of night mode. You're basically playing as Link, and then also like a kind of wolf variant of Link. So there's kind of a very different sort of play style, really. That's where the sort of the Twilight nature of the gameplay takes effect. I was prompted to sell this recently, but I couldn't do it. I got offered a really good price for it. It's in really good condition, and I just couldn't part with it as much as I kind of wanted some money for going away. Right, the last of the Legend of Zelda games in my collection, and this is The Wind Waker. And like a lot of other Zelda games I've mentioned in the past, they released in lots of different formats. So this one, in this PAL version, was a limited edition, whereby it also comes with Ocarina of Time. So as much as I've got 2 ways of playing Ocarina of Time on the GameCube, this came with Master Quest as well. So for anyone who doesn't know what Master Quest is, it was essentially a never released before optimal way of playing Ocarina of Time. So I think it made the game harder. All the dungeons were kind of mapped out slightly differently. And it was just a reimagined way of playing that original game, but in a kind of optimized way that never managed to release on the N64. And then moving on to the main reason you'd get this game is The Wind Waker. People that are around my age, you might remember that when The Wind Waker was announced, people weren't very happy. They had the tech demo for Legend of Zelda, and it looked very similar to Twilight Princess. People thought, wow, the GameCube's so powerful, so cool. And then we got this cel-shaded sort of child Link, Toon Link, and people just were outraged. They thought, what are you doing? You ruined Zelda. You've ruined our Legend of Zelda games. And it was initially not received that well. They were planning to make a sequel, but actually because the sales weren't as strong as Ocarina of Time, it never happened, and that's why we got Twilight Princess instead. But actually, as time's gone on, people love this game. The art style has aged incredibly well, and yeah, I've played Wind Waker, and I absolutely adore it. So it's an absolutely wonderful game. If you haven't played it before, you can play like a HD variant of it on the Wii U, but I'm aware not many people have a Wii U. So yeah, you can play it on the GameCube Classics if you've got the Nintendo Switch 2 online subscription, and you can also play it on our beloved GameCube. Really cool. It's aged fantastically well and just plays beautifully. I just love the sort of sailing on it. It was really good fun sort of going between the islands, which I think there was some quality of life updates with the Wii U version where they kind of sped things up a bit. People were spending less time at sea, travelling from one island to the next. There aren't many of these, but Lego games, and this is Lego Star Wars, the video game. So we only got a handful of Lego games on the GameCube, but this is the original Star Wars Lego game that we got, and the Lego Star Wars games are fantastic, and they very much started this whole sort of Lego film franchise game format that people loved. Tons of them came out in the future. We had sort of Jurassic Park games, Indiana Jones, Batman, Lord of the Rings, loads of really cool iconic games, but it all started with this one. And this is absolutely fantastic. So this game is based on the prequel trilogy, episode 1, 2 and 3, which, like many things, weren't received too well when they first came out. As time has gone on, people have realised how much they loved it, which is great. So this is based on those 3 games. You can play it in 2-player co-op, which is fantastic. Loads of unlockables, lots of replayability, exploring. But if you're a Lego fan or a Star Wars fan, these games are brilliant, and it's a fantastic game, and it paved the way for lots of really great Lego games to come. Yeah, really good fun. I got loads of happy memories playing these Lego games as a kid. And as an adult, I've played them to completion on this as well. Then we've got Lego Star Wars 2, the original trilogy, which I think throws people. You'd think, oh, it's the sequel. It must be, more recent films, based on the more recent films. But actually, no, this is based on 4, 5 and 6, so the original Star Wars trilogy. And essentially, it's basically just like a better, more polished game. At least I think that's the way around. I think this came out after. And everything we love about the first Lego Star Wars game, this is just better. And probably more iconic because it's based on the original trilogy. So you can make your own characters, there's vehicles you can ride. It's got that drop in and drop out co-op that we mentioned before. But it's it's just a really fun game. And if you love Star Wars and love Lego, there's nowhere else to look. You might have played Skywalker Saga, the Lego game that recently came out. Not too recently, but the past 5 years or so. Exploration wise, really fun, but they just don't hit the same as these Lego Star Wars games. Not for me, at least. Then moving on to the next franchise that got a lot of representation on the console, thankfully, we have got Lord of the Rings, and this is the Lord of the Rings, the Third Age. I don't have The Hobbit in my collection. 2 of these Lord of the Rings games were just based on films that came out. I don't think we ever got the Fellowship of the Ring on this console, unfortunately. It only released on PlayStation 2 and Xbox. But this is the Third Age, and essentially it's a film based in the past. So before the setting of the original films, you can see that some of the older characters are still present in the game. So you can see that Legolas and Gandalf are in the game, both thousands of years old, so really old. And it's really cool. It's an RPG game based in the Lord of the Rings world. It plays quite similarly to sort of Final Fantasy in that it's turn taking. You've got a squad of like 3, and you're lots of exploration, and you're engaging in these turn-based battles with lots of different opponents and enemies and creatures across the Lord of the Rings, across Middle-earth. So a really great game, and actually you can play it in 2-player as well, but just bear in mind it's turn-based, so you're alternating with your friend playing or your family member playing. But it's a brilliant game, a really great story, and it's quite iconic and quite original. And I feel like it's a game that people could forget about, so definitely recommend this one. Really cool. Next up, we have got Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. And this is a game that, all the levels are based on the film. So this is the second film in the trilogy, for those that are less familiar with the Lord of the Rings franchise. And this is a single-player game, but essentially you play through a variety of levels as a variety of different heroes from the Fellowship. So you've got Aragorn, you've got Legolas, you've got Gimli. I think it's just them. And there's a secret character that you unlock as well, according to the back. That's not much of a spoiler. It literally, that's on the case. But essentially, you play through iconic levels based on the film as the trio here, and it's a really fun sort of hack and slash game. It's really great gameplay, really fun, really strongly recommend it, especially the Battle of Helm's Deep. It's really brilliant on this game. But like always, that format got kind of perfected and built upon when it came to The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. So this is based on the third film of the trilogy, the final film of the trilogy, and The Return of the King is just phenomenal. I absolutely adored this game. It was on Xbox, PS2 and GameCube, and it was just absolutely brilliant. Graphically, much better. So it's, still based on that third film, but just graphically very cinematic. There's lots more characters. There's a lot more kind of variety within the game. You get some cutscenes from the film, so basically in between the different levels. But I think one of the biggest selling points for me is that it's two-player co-op, so you can play it with a friend or with someone by your side. And with a bigger roster of characters you can play as, it's just incredibly fun. So there'll be levels where you get to play as Frodo and Samwise and Merry and Pippin. There'll be levels where you can play as Gandalf. There'll be levels where you can play as Faramir. So quite a variety, but actually just lots of levels throughout the film, playing as a variety of different characters, and it's an excellent game. And as I was showing it to you, I realised there was like a bit of a mark on the case, and it was bugging me. But really cool game, and I think in an era where we were having loads of games based on films, like this has got to be one of the best game adaptations of a film that I've ever played, to be honest. So 15 interactive levels and 9 characters. Very exciting. So next up, I have to declare I did record this over a couple of days, just life. Well, the next game in my collection is Luigi's Mansion, which you may have seen me play on stream recently. So Luigi's Mansion is really special to me. It was the first GameCube game I ever got. So I got it with the console on launch, and I've got loads of really fond memories of this. So when we first got the GameCube, it was just sold out everywhere, really impossible to find, and we were on holiday somewhere near a beach in the UK, and there was an old Woolworths store, and we just thought, I was desperate, so I was like, look, please, can we just try in here, Dad, brother, can we try in here? And they're like, well, it's not going to be there, is it? It's sold out everywhere else. So we look in, we go in the store, and then basically all around the gaming section, they've just got these boxes of the consoles. And I'm just, as a little kid, I'm mesmerised. I'm about 9 years old, and I'm like, whoa, this is so cool. And I'm just like, oh, look, they've got these GameCubes. And my dad's like, no, they're just boxes. Like, calm down, they're just boxes. Definitely don't have any in stock. So I go up to the till and I say, excuse me, do you have any GameCubes in stock? And they just say, yeah. Do you want purple, or which colour? Do you want indigo or black? Really casually, and I forget how to socialise and speak. I just remember being absolutely stunned, and I, without saying a word, just turn around, run to my dad and my brother, and just beg them. And they don't believe me. They're like, no, that's like rubbish. There's no way they've got them in stock. And that was it. We decided there and then it was time to get our joint Christmas present. And we got a Nintendo GameCube, an Indigo Nintendo GameCube, which I wish I had still, but I did sell it to buy the 360, all that jazz. So yeah, we got the GameCube, and then we had a game each. So I chose Luigi's Mansion, and my brother had Star Wars Rogue Leader. But Luigi's Mansion is an incredible game. So Luigi wins a mansion. It's his first game where he's the main protagonist, and essentially it's a haunted mansion, and you have to help him get to Mario and save Mario. Also got loads of really special memories of this. A really close friend of mine stayed with me for a bit when I was young, and it was because his dad at the time was really poorly, bless him. But as a kid, I thought it was the best thing ever because I had like a really close friend of mine staying with me for like a whole week, and it was great. And this was the game that we were playing before and after school for that whole week. And as much as it really was not a great time, as a kid, getting to share this with him and also for him to have that little bit of relief, this game just was really special, actually. So, I'll always really adore this game. And if I'm honest, I've never played any of the sequels. So if you have, let me know. What do you think? How do they compare to the original? I'll definitely get around to playing Luigi's Mansion 2, 3, etc. in the near future, I think. Right, next up, we've got our first Mario game and our first Mario sports game. So this is Mario Golf Toadstool Tour. And if I'm honest, I haven't played much of it. I haven't played many golf games, to be honest, because I'm not a massive golf fan. I do believe this is meant to be sort of the quintessential Mario Golf experience. I think it's meant to be sort of much better than a lot of the other golf entries. Builds upon the N64 titles quite considerably. I think there's quite a lot of sort of like party modes. So even on the back, you can see that it's 4-player, which is a must for a party game. But you've got coin attack, ring attack, speed golf, and just many fun sort of mini games to kind of just bring the whole sport to life. So yeah, definitely excited to play this. And as much as I'm not massively into golf, this is probably the way that I would be. So my golf entry point is right here. Next up, we have got one of the best games on the console, in my opinion, and one of the games that I think is a bit underrated, to be honest. We've got Mario Kart Double Dash. So this is, as when I was recollecting, this is one of the first games I picked up because it was just a game I needed to have in my collection. So this is just a fantastic game. I think it's the third Mario Kart entry, or arguably the fourth, depending on when the Game Boy Advance game came out. But essentially, Double Dash is like its predecessors, but you've got two players or two characters in the same kart. And it just really, throws a spanner in the mix. You can play with a friend in the same car as you. You can sort of alternate and switch who's driving around and who's can control the items. So actually, it's a really fantastic game. So this is one of the games I played first with my eldest son, because he could be the passenger and he could sort of have an active involvement in the game, but he could just experience winning race after race without sort of needing to be the best player in the world, because he essentially was in my car with me and we were a team. And actually, really strongly recommend sharing this with youngsters because it's brilliant. But yeah, fantastic game, fantastic courses, really great roster, loads of unlockables. It's just an absolutely brilliant game. All the characters have their own like super abilities, which is really cool. They're super powerful like pickups. So like Donkey Kong's got a giant banana, that kind of thing. And there's just a lot of variety. It's a really good party game, and I think of all the Mario Kart games, this is one of the most unique, and I just think we do need to have it on the GameCube Classic system, on the Nintendo Switch 2 online subscription, just because it's such a unique experience. And I don't know, there's a lot of people that probably just haven't experienced this or don't know much about it, and maybe it's a bit gimmicky for some people, but it's a really good gimmick. So happy days, that's what I love about the GameCube. Next up, we have got the first of the whole collection of Mario Party games. So this is Mario Party 4. We had 1, 2 and 3 on the N64, and then this was suddenly Mario Party like we'd never seen it before. So this is the one I mainly grew up with, and the party game selection is incredible. So it's just absolutely brilliant. Some of my favourite things about this are the selection of mini games that you get. So there's one where you've got sort of folding pages of a book, and you've got to try and find the correct kind of gap or silhouette in the page so that you don't get crushed by the book, and it's a sort of survival game. It's really fun, and you can also sort of become sort of extra large and extra small, so you can turn small and sort of get into secret passages across the board, and you can become super big and you can crush everyone and take all their coins. So there's quite an interesting dynamic there too. But yeah, just a really good party game. I don't know, to be honest, I think this will always be my favourite Mario Party, as much as I really love Mario Party Superstars Jamboree as well. But 4 is a very special game indeed. Naturally, we've got Mario Party 5 next. So with Mario Party, I only ever owned Mario Party 4 growing up. However, they've all got something really unique to offer. So this game, it's one of the ones I played the least, I would say. But essentially, loads of new mini-games. Just builds upon the 4th game. I don't think it's as good. I don't quite like it the same. But it's, yeah, with all I don't think you can really go wrong with any of these Mario Party games. They're all really fantastic experiences that offer very unique mini games, and it's just really good fun, really brilliant. So I think reading the back, it introduced like a dual mode. I don't know if that was available beforehand, and there was also a bonus mode that they don't elaborate on in the actual on the back of the game here. But yeah, Mario Party 5, really good. And actually one of the cheaper Mario Party games to collect. The 7th is going to be the one that's the most pricey and that sets you back the most. Next up, we have got Mario Party 6. So we're following the tradition. We're continuing to count in order. Fantastic. So Mario Party 6 rather is quite an interesting one. Yeah, okay, this one's really cool. So one of the, well, two things. So it introduced the gimmick of the microphone. So there's some mini games that incorporate sort of the microphone, which is really cool. So for anyone who doesn't know, looked a little bit like this. Obviously mine's in a bag. And mini games that were designed to have that incorporated within, which is really cool. There was also like a sort of really interesting day-night cycle. So essentially you could play the same boards, but in day and in nighttime modes. And it kind of just changed the boards around completely. There was this kind of polarity, and it just kind of really spiced things up a little bit in a really unique and interesting way. So yeah, Mario Party 6 and more unique mini games, microphone incorporation, and then you've got the day-night variety. So really cool. And last but not least, we have got Mario Party 7, which I think is, I feel like it hasn't sort of got the best reputation, but I genuinely think it's one of the better ones. So one of my favourite things about this game, which I like to think a lot of people will agree with this game's 1 to 8 players, and the way that this works is that you can kind of pair up in duos, in teams of 2, and for me, having a Mario Party experience which you can share with 8 people as opposed to 4 is huge. That just kind of really opens the game up to me. So yeah, tons of new mini games, 88 new mini games to be precise. Lots of craziness. You can have 8 people playing all at once. You've got a little picture here, but it's got that really great sort of team duo kind of mode too, which I've just really loved and really enjoyed. And it's a fantastic way, once again, of kind of playing with youngsters, pairing up with them, and it just kind of makes the Mario Party experience a little bit kind of less intense and competitive and at times toxic when you take someone's all their stars and that kind of rubbish. So Mario Party 7, really cool, all really good entries, but 4's my favourite, always will be, but probably just nostalgia talking. Next we've got Mario Power Tennis, so once again, really good tennis game. It actually reminds me quite a bit of the latest Mario Tennis game that came out on the Switch 2, in that it's sort of quite gimmicky. So there's lots of unique rackets. So we've got a hammer there, for instance. Lots of kind of mini-game modes. It's very arcadey and, yeah, just really, really fun and playful. I think one of the Mario Tennis entries was the first time where Waluigi was the, sort of the main villain. But it's not this one. But yeah, really cool, really solid tennis game. So if you like Mario, like tennis, this is a really good one. And then it's just very party and sort of arcadey, really. So, yeah. And pretty cheap to get. So this is Mario Smash Football, which is fantastic. It's a really good football game, really good Mario game. And it's the same sort of thing, really, just like very sort of party, arcadey, lots of interesting mechanics. You can really kind of overthrow your opponent by kind of using super powerful kind of power-up moves and throwing all sorts of obstructions on the pitch. So yeah, just really fun, really good party game, and it's just really great. If I'm honest, I just kind of wish I had this growing up, because it's a brilliant game. But I just think if you paired that with some serious nostalgia, I think I would have just been absolutely in love with this game. And it was the 4th game to come to the GameCube Classic system on the Switch 2. So if you haven't got a physical copy and a way of playing GameCube, that's a really good way. And I believe it also comes with online multiplayer and up to 4 players online. So fantastic. And the last Mario sports game, the most expensive too, we've got Mario Superstar Baseball, which I'm not a massive baseball fan, I have to say. And it's not that I dislike it, I just haven't ever followed it. I feel like that's quite common in the UK, just because it's a sport that just is massively underrepresented. We kind of have cricket, I guess, but I don't care about cricket. I feel like baseball probably interests me a lot more than cricket does. But really cool game. So this game is super popular. It's got a fantastic roster, and is just very playful and arcadey. This game has a really great cult following online. People seem to really love this. It's a really unique game, and to be honest, I don't think we've really had Mario Baseball since. So it's a really unique sports title. You can also see that I purchased this from the same seller. So I believe this game was only ever owned by one other person, and they created this little doodle, especially for me. So enjoy Mario Superstar Baseball, and then includes playable Toadsworth. So I had no idea you could play as Toadsworth in this game, but really cool. And it was back in the day where you had like quite obscure Mario characters that were playable and very present within the games. I think there's quite a lot of characters that we've kind of forgotten about over the years. So yeah, Mario Superstar Baseball. Really looking forward to playing that properly. And just familiarising myself a bit more with baseball as a whole, because it's just something I don't know much about. Within the collection, we've got a lot of classics, but we've also got some more kind of obscure titles. So this is Marvel Nemesis, Rise of the Imperfects. And I would say that this is really carried by my nostalgia. So I had this growing up, I think maybe on the Xbox instead. It's a pretty cool game. So if you like Marvel superheroes, happy days. But essentially, you've got these weird kind of new villains called the Imperfects. They're like really powerful mutants, essentially. And you are playing as a selection of different Marvel heroes, and you're trying to sort of basically cleanse the world of these imperfect sort of villains. But what's really cool about this is that it's like an arena fighter, but there's kind of aspects of side-scrolling and aspects of sort of moving sort of within a three-dimensional space. So it reminds me a little bit of like Pokken Tournament in terms of how it plays. But yeah, it's actually really fun. I don't think the game's sort of that well remembered, but if you're interested in Marvel and you're interested in fighting games, it's it's a surprisingly unique experience with some really cool combos and moves, interactable sort of environments. So you can pick up lots of weapons and throw sort of explosives at each other and cars at each other, all that kind of stuff. And you got Spider-Man, Venom, The Thing, Iron Man, all sorts. Elektra is one of my favourite characters in this. She's brilliant. You can run up walls, climb on walls. It's just a really fun fighting game. And I kind of just wish it got more love, to be honest, but it wasn't really that well remembered at all. All right, next we have got, this is the only one I've got in the collection, Medal of Honor Rising Sun. So at some point I will get the original, because it was so iconic, especially with the D-Day landing. And then we also had Frontline Assault, which I never had as a kid. But Rising Sun I thought it was fantastic. To be honest, so it's 4-player split screen. It had a really good campaign, I thought, and the multiplayer was really fun too. It kind of felt a bit like sort of GoldenEye, really, in terms of sort of that kind of deathmatch shooter kind of jobby. I think the campaign was 2-player co-op campaign, so that was really refreshing and really fun. But yeah, just really, really enjoyable game. And I thought the multiplayer was sort of more akin to, Nightfire and all that kind of jazz. So just a really, really solid game that's dirt cheap. And I just don't think anyone really talks about it. But essentially just built upon its predecessor in every way imaginable, with a really fantastic campaign, co-op mode, and your classic shooting sort of arena multiplayer. Nothing original, but good fun. Next, we have got Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes, which is a really cool, unique experience on the GameCube. So this is a reimagining of the original Metal Gear Solid, and I believe it only came out on the GameCube, this particular version. And it's really cool. It's essentially just like a much nicer version, nicer way of playing the original Metal Gear Solid, exclusively on the GameCube, and it was developed by Silicon Knights, which is really cool because actually every game they released on the GameCube was pretty special. But yeah, I don't know what more to say about this, really. Metal Gear Solid series is really popular for a really good reason. Has an absolutely fantastic soundtrack. the main theme is just absolutely wonderful. I haven't actually played this version all too much, but what's really cool is that it kind of adopts aspects of the sequel as well. So Sons of Liberty, I believe sort of the way in which it plays, maybe like the first person sort of perspective and some of the control mechanisms. So essentially it updates the original with some of the more favourable mechanics from the second game. So yeah, really cool. Actually is getting quite rare and expensive as well, so just watch out for that. And when you are collecting for it, just bear in mind it is another 2-disc. Next up, we have got a classic, Metroid Prime. So Metroid Prime is highest rated GameCube game of all time, I believe, and it's fantastic. It's a brilliant game. I have played it, not to completion, but it's brilliant. I never owned it, but I borrowed it a few times from a local rental store, and I found as a kid it was quite easy to get a little bit lost and not really know what to do next. But I think that's kind of the beauty of this Metroidvania genre of game. So essentially, it was the first Metroid game we had in a sort of 3D space where you're not sort of exploring a side-scrolling kind of setting, and you had all sorts of gadgets, loads of excuses to kind of revisit old areas with new technology and new tools and all that jazz. But yeah, Metroid Prime. What more can we say? Absolutely fantastic game. Single-player experience, just in case anyone isn't sure or isn't familiar with that. And then we had Metroid Prime 2, which was equally really well received. Well, not equally, but it was really well received. And it introduced a 4-player multiplayer mode that gets a little bit forgotten about. But essentially, Metroid Prime 2 is really, a fantastic sequel. Did really well. Warranted, Metroid Prime 3 and 4. Warranted the existence of those at least. And, I think just the inclusion of that multiplayer mode was quite special. Although I don't think it was meant to be that good. It was quite sort of vanilla, but nice to have that as an inclusion regardless. So Metroid Prime 2 Echoes. Right, this is one of the more kind of obscure titles and one of the first that was introduced to the collection. This is Monopoly Party. So I love Monopoly. I think it's one of my favourite board games, really. And this is a 4-player Monopoly variant on the GameCube. Never had it as a kid. But it's dirt cheap, and I thought, actually, why not? I love Monopoly, love the GameCube. Might as well have it in the collection, give it a go sometime. So there we go. Nothing else to say about that. But essentially, if you're not too familiar with Monopoly, you're trying to monopolise the board and own all the properties and make all the other players bankrupt so that you're basically the richest person in the game. Next up, we have got Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance. So definitely didn't have this as a kid because it was really kind of brutal and violent, or at least it was considered to be back in the day. I know some of these sort of violent games have aged quite poorly and they're not, too scarring. A really cool fighting game, 2 players, sort of side-scroll fighter, and some really cool kind of brutality animations, and just really good fun. So there's quite a few of these kind of games on the GameCube, but this is the best, if not the only Mortal Kombat game on the GameCube. So, definitely worth picking up if you haven't picked it up already. I think Deadly Alliance is considered to be pretty special amongst all the different titles. I know that there have been quite a few Mortal Kombat games over the years that haven't sort of been as well received. So, definitely not a bad one to have. Next game. So I am a massive fan of basketball. It's probably the main sport that I'm interested in, although I don't really follow the NBA just because it's kind of hard to in the UK and you can't really get too involved, which is a bit sad. But this is NBA Street Vol.2. I very much intend to collect lots of NBA games for my collection, but this is the only one I currently have. And that's simply because it's considered to be the best NBA Street game. I think the NBA Street original game only came out in America, or at least didn't come out in Europe. So this one's really good. And then I think Volume 3 is supposed to be quite good too. And I think that game included you being able to play as Mario and Luigi, perhaps. But yeah, there was some sort of Nintendo-y character involvement in 3. But yeah, just really fun. Your typical kind of rags to riches game mode where you're just becoming a star basketball player. Obviously the rules are being sort of bent a little bit. The combos are pretty cool. The animations are really cool, and yeah, 4-player, really good fun. So that's a really good NBA game, and it will hopefully pave the way for me getting all the others too. Hopefully, I might even get sort of the US exclusives too, but they're a little bit harder to come by when you live where I do. Right, next up is the only NHL game that I have, so NHL Hitz 2003. And similarly, there's tons of NHL sort of ice hockey games on the GameCube, but the Hitz series is equivalent. It's kind of equivalent to the Street series in the sense that it's a bit more arcadey, it's a bit more playful. There's lots of sort of mini games. At some point in the game, the players could just start having a beat them up, sort of just fighting each other and sort of kicking each other, etc. And yeah, there's lots of silliness that can go on in this game. So, for instance, there's lots of like fire and lightning and basically doing really silly things to overthrow your opponent. And what I find really funny about this game is, as somebody who isn't massively into NHL and hasn't ever really followed it, I've always found this guy looks suspiciously like Anakin Skywalker. And I think there's a poster from Revenge of the Sith whereby Anakin Skywalker's basically putting the exact same face with the exact same lighting. And it just always throws me off because I'm just like, oh yeah, it's an NHL game. Oh, there's Anakin Skywalker. And that always kind of draws me in. And then I'm sort of brought back to reality. So yeah, really good NHL game. NHL Hitz 2002 is also supposed to be pretty good too, which is fantastic. Yeah, really cool. Next up is one of the most recent additions to my collection. And this is Odama. So this is a very unusual and obscure title that I haven't played, but I'm really intrigued about playing. So this is one of the few games on the GameCube that utilise the microphone. And the idea is that you command an army, and you command the army using your voice, which I thought was a really unique concept. I'm not sure how sort of well received this game was, but I just thought that's a really interesting idea. Was really intrigued by it, and you can see that when you're commanding the army, it's kind of like a pinball machine. So really interesting game. I think it'll be really fun on stream as well, because there's going to be lots of moments where I'm sort of calling out silly things and trying to get them to listen to my commands, but let's face it, they probably won't. So that's, yeah, it's a single player game. You can, I didn't realise this, but you can actually get like a connector for your microphone, so it just connects to your controller, but I do not have that. But maybe one day. So Odama, everyone. Next up, we have got Pikmin. So Pikmin is another game that I've recently played and completed on stream for the first time as well. So I never owned this. I rented it a couple of times. I found it really tricky to sort of commit to playing because of that sort of 30-day time pressure. But actually replaying it as an adult, it's very much just there to encourage replayability, I think. Trying to sort of, beat your record, basically just see, can I better myself? Can I play it again and better myself? And actually the time pressure is just non-existent. I think even if you don't help Captain Olimar to fix his ship with all the parts, you still complete the game at the end of the 30 days. You just get a different ending and it goes a bit differently. So the only time I've played through it, I did collect all 30 parts. And if you do get through a whole one of your 30 days and you feel like, wow, I've not really achieved much here, there's nothing stopping you from just going back and retrying. So actually, the time pressure is just non-existent. I think it's just a speedrunner's dream, to be honest. So yeah, really fantastic game. You command all of these Pikmin. It was a sort of technological marvel that was very much influenced by the Super Mario 128 demo that we saw, where we had lots of Marios on screen. And yeah, you can command up to 100 Pikmin at once, all uniquely sort of animated, and it's just fantastic. And a really cool Easter egg about this game is, I believe, a lot of the kind of art design and the locations are based on Shigeru Miyamoto's garden. I think it's directly influenced by from photos that were taken of his garden. So it's really cool idea. But yeah, just very unique to the system, and it paved the way for lots of fantastic games to come. And I look forward to playing all the sequels at some point. I just haven't ever played them. So really loved Pikmin. I was very late to the chase. Which brings us on to the sequel. So I don't know much about Pikmin 2. I know that it's 2-player. so you can play with a friend. To what extent, I'm not too sure, but it seems that you can split command between Olimar and his friend or his sidekick, Louis. You might recognise from Super Smash Bros. 2. You can see that there's the introduction of new kind of Pikmin variants. You've got like a purple Pikmin, you've got a little white Pikmin, and they're going to sort of behave in slightly different ways, which is really cool. And essentially, it just builds upon what was fantastic about the first game, and it was obviously a success because then we got Pikmin 3 and 4. So, yeah, really cool to have in the collection. It is a little bit more valuable and rare than Pikmin 1, but I think that's probably just based on how many, copies there are out in circulation, being a later release. Next up, we have got, as a massive Pokemon fan, the first Pokemon game in my collection. So this is Pokemon Colosseum. This does not include the memory card. It does not include the Pokemon box bonus disc that allowed you to store all your Pokemon from Ruby and Sapphire, and that's really expensive and really rare. But I just have your standard Colosseum, unfortunately. But yeah, really cool. I can't wait to properly play this, and hopefully on stream, because I was a huge fan of Pokemon Stadium and Pokemon Stadium 2 on the Nintendo 64, and this is very much sort of this, the evolution of that game, in the sense that you've got the same kind of stadium arena battles. I believe there might be some mini games available somewhere, but you've also got your own single player story experience too, which is fantastic. And for anyone that does have a Game Boy Advance and a way of connecting between the GameCube and the Game Boy Advance, you can import any of your Ruby and Sapphire Pokemon into Colosseum. So any Pokemon from the first 3 generations can be used within this, which is fantastic. But yeah, it's a really cool game, really popular, and a lot more affordable here than it is in other parts of the world. I know in the US, Colosseum just seems to be almost double the price, which then takes me on to the sequel. So we've got Pokemon Gale of Darkness, which is essentially, again, an evolution of the Colosseum game, but it introduced Shadow Pokemon and Shadow Lugia, which is the only time we've ever had Shadow Lugia. Really cool Pokemon. I don't think it's as kind of renowned and as loved as the original, as Colosseum, but it's still loved. It's recently been introduced to the Nintendo Classic System on the Switch 2, so it has dropped in value slightly, but it's in the UK it's still worth around 200 quid, I'd say, or maybe a little bit less. But yeah, really cool game. Really looking forward to playing this as well. But if I'm honest, I'm just reluctant to play through it until I've played through Colosseum. I feel if this is kind of in some way an evolution of Colosseum, then I owe it to myself to play that one first. But I know that there's a lot of love for evolutions in this game as well. In fact, Eevee's even just on the back there too, with one of its original kind of designs based on Stadium as well. So yeah, really cool. And a really nice exploration of shadow Pokemon that don't always get much of a mention. Right, next up we have got another series of games that I didn't have as a kid because they were horror games, and I was a scared 9-year-old boy. And this is Resident Evil. There are loads of Resident Evil games on the GameCube, and one of them a bit later on came to the GameCube exclusively and was only available on GameCube at one point. And I think that's the most renowned. But Resident Evil, the original game, is, a re-release, I think, of the original. I don't know too much about the Resident Evil series, but I have got Resident Evil 1. You can pick it up really cheap. It is just single player, as are all of these games. And yeah, I think it's just like a remaster, essentially, of the original that came out on older consoles. So that's Resident Evil. We've got Resident Evil 0 as well, which I'm not too sure. I believe it could be a prequel to the original, hence being 0 rather than 1 or 2. And it released later, so graphically looks a little bit better too, but once again you can get it pretty cheap. But Resident Evil 0. So they went through a sort of phase of just making sure that every Resident Evil title was available on GameCube. I used to have Resident Evil 2 in my collection, which I don't anymore. I had to sell it to make some money. I will try and get it back at some point. But next up, I have got Resident Evil 3. Nemesis, which I don't know. I don't think it's got as good reviews as 1 and 4, for instance. But yeah, got Nemesis. You can get it sort of relatively cheap. It is a little bit more expensive than the others. And yeah, same old thing. So horror game, single player, third rendition in the series, and yeah, Resident Evil 3. So anyone who's a massive Resident Evil fan was eating very well on the GameCube. Then the biggest. Okay, so this is Resident Evil 4. It's a lot of people, this is their sort of favourite game of all time. It came out exclusively on the GameCube at first, and then eventually came out on other platforms too. And it was originally one of the Capcom 5. So Capcom had a partnership with GameCube, and they were to develop 5 unique games that were releasing exclusively on the GameCube. And Resident Evil 4 was one of them. I think is the only one of them that's in my collection. I think a couple of them were cancelled too. But yeah, so GameCube had this to itself for a little while. It's very much considered to be one of the best horror games ever made. And I really owe it to myself to play it at some point. But if you are quite familiar with the Resident Evil franchise, I'd really appreciate knowing, is it important to kind of introduce myself to this game first, or should I be playing through them in sort of chronological order? Because I think that's the main thing with Resident Evil. I don't know where the entry point is. I know I want to play on the GameCube first, but should I play Resident Evil 1? Should I start with the prequel first? Should I start with 4 first? I just don't know what's, the best way forward. What's recommended? Lastly, of all of the Resident Evil games in my collection, we have got Resident Evil Code Veronica X. And actually, another question. I don't know where this sits chronologically. Where does 0 and Code Veronica X sit? I could look it up online, but it's nicer just to sort of talk to fans, because I find what you'll get is a really kind of realistic, appreciative account of their love of the Resident Evil franchise and sort of why they think it's best to start here or there. Skip over this game, don't worry about that one, etc. I just think you get a much better picture when you talk to the fans, and I'd very much like to become a fan of Resident Evil 2. And I know Requiem has recently released and was incredibly popular, so it's a good time to be a Resident Evil fan. And if you're a GameCube collector like myself, the same thing applies. Next on my list, we're working through in alphabetical order, and we got to the S's and Serious Sam. Next Encounter. So this is a game I didn't have growing up. I've played some Serious Sam games, and I don't think they're for everyone, but I think they're a really fun arcade shooter. Really fun with friends, lots of silliness, like really sort of ridiculous weapons and ridiculous enemies, a little bit of humour too, and I just think it's a really refreshing, kind of a bit of a party game really. So when I saw there was one on GameCube, I thought, yeah, I need to go back to this. So yeah, let me know if you've played it before, what you think of it. I know it includes about 40 different levels, there's lots of multiplayer modes, lots of weapons, some vehicles too, but just lots of fun party shooting action, and I think it's the only Serious Sam game on the console, so a cheap one and yeah, a nice addition. I look forward to giving that a go at some point. Next up we have got the original The Sims. So this is a console adaptation, I guess, of the original that came out on the PC, and I absolutely adored The Sims growing up, especially on PC. That was kind of like the optimal way of playing these games, but I've always felt they were adapted for console quite nicely. So it's a simulation game. You control these characters or people called Sims, and essentially you support them and guide them through their lives. You can either kind of take a bit of a back seat and watch what chaos they get up to, or you can have quite a sort of direct influence on their lives. But essentially, yeah, really good fun, really unpredictable, and you can waste a lot of hours in this game. It's got a 2-player mode too, so that was something that I thought was quite refreshing and quite unique to the console version. But yeah, got The Sims, really fun, and actually there's quite a few Sims titles on the console, and I don't have all of them in the collection yet, but I intend on getting them all. Next up we've got The Herbs, Sims in the City, and this game's really cool. I didn't play it until I was sort of in my late teens, but once again, 2-player, you can play with a friend, but it's quite a unique kind of spin on the Sims series and Sims franchise. It's very much kind of trying to cater to a more edgy kind of teenage audience. You've got some original music from the Black Eyed Peas. that features, and it's just a bit more kind of cool, I guess. So you can have pets, but you're basically sort of a young adult living in sort of a cool city. And it's, I don't know, I think it's the perfect game. It was the perfect game for sort of teenagers at the time. But yeah, really like that. So I've got that in the collection too. I will try and get Sims 2, Sims Pets in my collection, but I don't have them just yet. I don't think there are any other GameCube games, Sims GameCube games available, but let me know if I'm wrong. Maybe I'll realise I'm wrong after editing this anyway. Skies of Arcadia Legends. This is a JRPG that I never experienced. As a kid, I just had no idea it existed, but I know it's really popular. It's really sort of sought after. The video of top 10 games I'd never played on GameCube, this was, I think, 11th or 12th, so it narrowly missed out. But people love this game. It's got a fantastic soundtrack, fantastic story, really fun gameplay, and yeah, I owe it to myself to play it at some point. So if you've played Skies of Arcadia before, let me know what was your experience like. Did you love it? Why should other people know about this and experience this? I think you fly like a ship. Reminds me a little bit of Treasure Planet in some ways, but yeah, really cool. Looking forward to playing that, and it is creeping up in price. So if you're interested in having it in your collection, I think it goes for about £90 complete in box. So just watch out for that one creeping up. Next up, growing up, massive fan of The Simpsons, and this is The Simpsons Road Rage. So it's very much The Simpsons equivalent of Crazy Taxi. So you're driving around in vehicles, collecting people, getting your taxi fares in by just picking people up, dropping off in different locations, and trying to sort of see how much money you can accumulate within a time limit. There's lots of really cool Simpsons characters in the roster, lots of cool unique vehicles. There is a split screen mode where you can kind of compete for fares, and it's just really good fun, and you're driving around Springfield. So really good game, really fun, very much like an arcade experience, and I don't think you could spend too long playing it in one sitting, but really fun in short bursts. But then we have a little bit of a holy grail. I think this is incredible, this game. It did come out on other platforms too. There's a huge push to have like a re-release of the game in the future, but The Simpsons Hit and Run is everything The Simpsons Road Rage was, but better. So you can explore Springfield freely, but there's also free roam, so you can kind of wander around on foot as well. The story's really good. There's tons of unlockables, cars, costumes, characters, all that kind of stuff. It's just really good fun. It's absolutely brilliant, this game. Loads of really cool Easter eggs, and if you're a fan of the series, just everywhere you look, you'll see sort of references to sort of specific episodes and silly things that have happened. So it's just, it's an absolutely wonderful game, and a lot of the original cast were on board for voicing the characters as well. Just one thing to bear in mind, there is a 4-player mode. So if you get this game and think, oh yeah, multiplayer, brilliant, just bear in mind the 4-player mode is essentially just like a little mini game where it's kind of a top-down, like a Micro Machines track, and then you can play as different characters and different vehicles that you've unlocked, and you're just trying to race around the track and win the race. And it's fine. It's 4-player. It's fun. It kind of rewards your unlockable sort of what you've unlocked a little bit, but just bear in mind it is quite a restrictive, limiting mode, and it's very different to the rest of the hit and run game. But the single player alone sells this game. It's absolutely fantastic, really brilliant game. So if you haven't played it before and you're thinking, oh, for licensing reasons maybe we're not getting it back, play it. Go on. I know The Simpsons isn't as kind of prominent in today's kind of pop culture, but it's so good. Next up, we have got almost every Sonic game on the platform. I don't have Shadow. Well, it's about Shadow the Hedgehog. It might just be called Shadow the Hedgehog, but I don't have that yet. So this is Sonic Adventure DX, or Deluxe, or Director's Cut. So this is basically a re-release of the original Sonic Adventure that came out on the Dreamcast. And essentially they made the game a little bit better, I believe. So there's a 2-player mode where you can play with a friend and race against each other. You can link up with lots of Game Boy Advance games. So you've got Sonic Pinball Party, Sonic Advance 1 and 2, and the Tiny Chao Garden. There's 6 playable characters. A mission mode. Essentially, it's really good fun. Really good game. Was a fantastic game on the Dreamcast. It was one of the signature games on Dreamcast. So brilliant to have on the system. I haven't played it fully, but I look forward to, because one game I grew up with that I still would argue is one of the best games on the platform is Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. This game is incredible in so many different ways. I'll forever love it. It was one of my favourite games as a kid. And I think it just has a little bit of everything for everyone. So firstly, the story's fantastic. It splits into kind of different parts. So you've got you play as quite a variety of different characters on both of these teams, across lots of different challenges. Some of them are like races, some of them are battles, some of them are sort of collectathons, but really good fun. Lots of unlockables too. You've got a really good multiplayer mode where it's a split screen mode where you can kind of race against each other. There's lots of rail racing, that kind of thing too. Just tons of replayability. But on top of that, you've also got this garden of KO or Chows. I don't know how to pronounce it, but essentially you unlock these little pets, and then you can sort of care for these pets. You can get the pets to sort of participate in mini games. There's all sorts of really fun interactable ways of playing around with the Chow or the KO, and I think people have spent or wasted a lot of hours in that garden. So it's just got so much to offer. It's fantastic, and if you're after a challenge, trying to 100% this game I'm yet to do it, so I need to get back on that, because it's been a long time since I've given this game its time. Another thing to bear in mind as well is the opening level has one of the best pieces of music in a game, I think. I mean, it's the perfect piece of music and the perfect introduction to the game as you're racing through a city that, if it's not San Francisco, it feels very much like San Francisco. So yeah, really cool. Other Sonic games, so we've got Sonic Gems Collection. So this is a collection of lots of different Sonic games. Funny enough, it's one of two collections that came out on the GameCube. So this came with Sonic CD that are released on the Sega CD. You had Sonic the Fighters, which I don't think ever released. So this is an exclusive that finally came out. And then Sonic R that came out on the Sega Saturn. So you've got access to some original games, but you've also got access to some classic Game Gear games. So you've got Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Sonic Spinball, Sonic the Hedgehog Triple Trouble, Sonic Drift 2, Tails Sky Patrol, and Tails Adventures. So if you're a fan of lots of Sonic games, there's probably one here that you haven't played, and especially Sonic Fighters. It's basically a on the side sort of 1v1 fighting game that we just didn't really ever see released. So yeah, lots of cool Sonic experiences, up to 4-player for some of them as well. So lots of really cool things to explore. Yeah. So 9 games there. As much as they say 3 plus 6, it's yeah. Right, next one, Sonic Heroes. So this is a game that doesn't get as much love, but I think it's a fantastic game too. Builds upon Sonic Adventure 2, but the main difference I would say is that you play in sort of parties of 3. So it is only 2-player. I kind of always felt like it should have been a 3-player game, but essentially you play in a party of 3. They each have their own unique kind of ability, which are kind of mirrored across each of the teams. So Shadow will play exactly the same as Sonic, for instance, or Rouge will play exactly the same as Tails, etc. But essentially you've got a little trio that move through levels, and you have to kind of alternate between teammates in order to solve puzzles, I guess. So the actual campaign there's a little bit more variety to it, because everyone's together all at once, which I kind of love as well. But yeah, really good game, and I think depending on how old you are, really, like this game might be sort of favoured over Sonic Adventure 2 for some, but really cool. And I've never played it to completion, and I really want to. And I tried to play it with my son, my eldest son, at one point, and he just wasn't quite old enough to do it just yet. So at some point in the future. Then we've got Sonic Mega Collection. So this is another collection of 7 of the Sonic greatest hits. So you can see that we've got Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Sonic 3, Sonic and Knuckles, Sonic 3D, Sonic Spinball, and then Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. So these are all games that came out on the Sega Mega Drive. In fact, did they all come out on the Sega Mega Drive? They did. Yeah, all of them released on the Sega Mega Drive. So really cool to have this collection. You can play 2 players simultaneously or 4 players alternating, so like with different sort of challenges and trying to beat each other's score and stuff. But if you're into classic Sonic, it's a really cool way of experiencing some of the old games, as much as I'm sure there are many, many more modern kind of variants of this. Really cool game, and I'd say one of the cheaper Sonic titles. If you haven't experienced Sonic before, could be a good entry point, really. And then last but not least, of the Sonic games at least, we've got Sonic Riders. So this is a game I have not played at all, to be honest, but it was getting more expensive. I really wanted to get it. As a huge fan of the kind of the rail racing in Sonic Adventure 2, I thought Sonic Riders is probably my kind of game. And it's 4 players. It's a racing game. You can see that it's a bit of a rail racer. You're on sort of like these boards as well. There's quite a epic roster, some really cool tracks. And if you're a huge fan of sort of the fast-paced racing element of Sonic, I think this is going to be really good fun. So I'm really looking forward to giving this a go. But it does feel like a bit of a party game to me. So I think you'll probably get the most out of this when playing sort of local multiplayer with friends or family, as opposed to playing on your own. But at some point, I'll give it a go. But I think with racing games in mind, I feel like I have to crack open F-Zero first. But we'll see. You never know. So next game in my collection is Soul Calibur 2. So Soul Calibur 2 released with the GameCube Collection on the Switch 2. It's a fantastic game. It did actually release on the Xbox and PS2. However, the bonus fighter was different for each of the platforms. So I believe PlayStation may have got... I think PlayStation may have got Heihachi from Tekken, perhaps. And then Xbox got Yoda from Star Wars, and GameCube or Nintendo got Link. And I think we won. We won the battle. This is a bit of a fan favourite. People really love this particular Soul Calibur game, and particularly love the fact that you can play as Link. And it's a brilliant game. So for anyone who doesn't know, it's a 2-player game. It's a sort of a fighting game. You're side by side fighting. It's a little bit like a more I guess a more child-friendly Mortal Kombat. It's less brutal, it's less sort of violent and sort of graphic, I guess, but just a really good fighting game. So Soul Calibur 2 is brilliant. It's the only Soul Calibur on the GameCube, but yeah, really good title. I've not played it extensively, but I have played it a fair amount, and it's great, and it's just wonderful to have Link in the game. And next up, we have got the original Spider-Man. So in an era where we had lots of games that were based on film franchises, Spider-Man was another one of them. And actually the Spider-Man games were brilliant. So this was based on the Spider-Man film that featured Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man. And this is a pretty good game. It's a single-player experience. It's very level-based. The combat's really fun. There are future editions that are far superior in my opinion, but it's quite a cinematic experience. It looks good, it feels good, and it's got a really fun sort of level-based system. The sequel's my favourite, but this is, yeah, Spider-Man. It looks really cool. It's a really great game, really good fun. You can pick it up pretty cheap, but what I really want to talk about is this absolute beauty, Spider-Man 2. It's not exclusive to GameCube or anything like that, but it's just a phenomenal game. It's based on the second film that also featured Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man, but it's just an absolutely brilliant film. Well, a game based on a film. This, alongside Return of the King, they're two of my absolute favourite games based on films, and it's wonderful. You free roam across New York City. The game looks pretty good. It plays really well. You've got a lot of flexibility and sort of freedom, and the city just feels really alive. I think in Spider-Man 1 you could travel around the city a little bit in the levels, but you couldn't get to the ground. It was just all completely out of bounds. But in Spider-Man 2, you can take to the streets, you can sort of climb on top of the cars, etc. And it's just a fantastic game. I'm sure PlayStation lovers, you've played the more sort of recent Spider-Man games, and you probably are laughing at me right now, to be honest. But as someone who hasn't played the PlayStation games, this is the next best thing. It's wonderful, and it's really old at this point, so 22 years old, so it's really sort of stood the test of time, I think. Couldn't recommend that game more, to be honest. So this is a game that is really new to the collection. and it's Spyro. It's one of the Spyro games, the only Spyro game I have, and it's Spyro Enter the Dragonfly. So Spyro is a cool little dragon that was for a very long time exclusive to Sony and PlayStation, and in this particular era that ceased to be the case. We started having sort of Crash Bandicoot and Spyro appear on the GameCube, and really wonderful stuff. But yeah, Spyro is a really cool game, really fun platformer title, really kind of great / sad to not see it as an exclusive on the PlayStation. I do feel like when PlayStation let go of some of these signature IPs, it was a real kind of shame. They just didn't really seem to care about them the way that Nintendo cared about theirs. But yeah, really fun. I do love playing Spyro games. I just haven't really played any of the games to completion, so really looking forward to giving this a go at some point. Not the best condition, probably like the worst condition of my whole collection, but yeah, it's cool. Next, we've got another extreme sports game, and it's fantastic. This is SSX 3. So a really good snowboarding franchise. There were quite a few SSX games, and SSX 3 is sort of renowned for being one of the best, essentially. Not just SSX games, but one of the best snowboarding games and extreme sports games too. And EA Big were sort of really doing well at this point. They were releasing fantastic games. So this is a 2-player game. Loads of really fun kind of arcade-based extreme sports action, and yeah, just a really brilliant game. So if you love snowboarding, love extreme sports, or perhaps just are a big fan of EA Big, like SSX 3 is really great. And prior to that, we also had the release of this game, SSX Tricky, which is equally as fantastic. I would say the soundtrack is much more iconic. In fact, most people can't even read the title of this without kind of having the theme song playing in their heads. And it's just really good fun. I remember playing this actually on PlayStation 2 and with a close friend of mine, and we just had an absolute blast. It was brilliant. And I just think it's such an iconic combination. This guy with the fro, the SSX Tricky song, and some of these like really cool combos that you can pull off as you go down the peaks. Really good game, and very luckily it's on GameCube too. Next up, we have got Starfox Adventures. This is a game that I actually really loved. It doesn't have the best reputation, I have to say. When this game came out, it was very different to any Starfox game we'd had received previously, and people really hated it for that reason. One reason that this game's really special to me is essentially it was Rare's swan song prior to their departure and them leaving to join Microsoft. So Starfox Adventures was the final Rareware game that was released on a Nintendo platform, and actually this happened really early on in the lifetime of the GameCube. So this released in 2002. GameCube only released in 2001, so actually I think this is the only Rareware title that ever released on GameCube, and all the others unfortunately got cancelled. So this is an absolutely fantastic game. As a kid, I remember having dreams about its release, and I have this really horrible, vivid dream of waking up. It felt really real. Starfox Adventures had come out. I looked at my little game rack in my bedroom. It wasn't there. And I was gutted, and it was just a really tragic weekend where I thought, wow, I'm actually going to get to play Star Fox, and then I didn't. And that feeling, that sensation stayed with me my entire life. So it must be special to some extent. So this is the game that introduced Crystal. There she is, over there. I think she's going to be a Super Smash Bros. Character in the future. Wouldn't be surprised. I think we need more female representation in the Smash series, and I think Crystal's a good bet, to be honest. So yeah, there's lots of sort of dinosaur creatures. It's a fantastic game. It's a little bit like if Star Fox met Legend of Zelda. And in fact, prior to being a Star Fox game, this was originally going to be a game called Dinosaur Planet. I think it was that Nintendo were not convinced by the IP, and so they decided to get Rare to rebrand it and just basically put Star Fox all over it and make it a Star Fox game. Which I think to a lot of people is why this game just does not feel inherently like a Star Fox title. But to me, I loved it. Maybe it's just because I didn't grow up so much with the other Star Fox titles, so I was more sort of open to something different. But yeah, fantastic game. And for me, this is a must in my collection. Love this. We'll definitely return to it at some point in the future, but I certainly can appreciate the criticism. I wonder if we'll get a Starfox Adventures too. I'd love to see that. And then the second Starfox title on the GameCube, we've got Starfox Assault. In recent news, we've had sort of the new Starfox be announced for Switch 2. It's the 4th time the game has been in some way kind of reimagined. And Starfox Assault is an exception. This is a game that wasn't some sort of variant of Star Fox 64. It was a standalone title. And some things that are really cool about this game are that there are sections where you're on foot. There are sections when you're in a ship or in a land-based vehicle. But also there's a 4-player multiplayer mode where you're in an arena and you're put up against each other and you can battle on foot in a spaceship and also in land vehicles. So it's quite a fun multiplayer title. It's quite sort of dynamic and diverse in terms of how you actually play the game. I think it was received kind of okay. I think people just didn't feel like it hit quite as hard as sort of the classic Star Fox, but I really loved what it was trying to achieve. I only first played this in recent years, but I think it's a pretty cool game. I would love to play this a little bit more, especially on stream. I think it'd be really fun to play through the campaign. But yeah, Starfox Assault, it is creeping up in price, so just watch out for that. But really good game. Good old Star Fox. It's just fantastic to see Star Fox back in the limelight, back in back in the new Mario Galaxy film, and then also with this kind of reintroduction to the Switch 2. Then we have got, with some weird stuff on the case that I'm just scraping off. Next, we have got a Star Wars game that is fantastic. We, for some reason, didn't get all of the Star Wars games that PlayStation and Xbox got. Some of them were actually exclusives, like there was a Obi-Wan game that only came out on Xbox and that kind of thing. But this is one of the GameCube ones that we got. And this is Jedi Outcast 2, or Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast. And this game is absolutely brilliant. The single-player campaign's brilliant, and then there's a 2-player mode, which is also brilliant, and battling the bots, which is also really fun. So in this game, you play as Kyle Katarn, and you are a Jedi. You've got really cool force moves. Really cool campaign. You play sort of in third person, but Kyle Katarn has sort of you can kind of choose his force abilities and how much he's drawn to the light or dark side. So he has force lightning and force grip and all that kind of stuff too. You can also play it in first person too and fight with guns. So it's quite a diverse game, but yeah, really cool game. In fact, all the Jedi Knight games are pretty cool. But Jedi Academy, the sequel to this game, didn't actually release on GameCube, sadly. But I did love that game too. It also features a 2-player mode where you can either have duels with one another or you can sort of put yourself up against lots of bots. The multiplayer maps are brilliant. They're really fun. And the dueling is actually really cool. So the animations are brilliant and the way in which you actually have lightsaber battles is quite dynamic. And then pair that with the weapons. I don't think anyone ever really used guns in this particular mode, but using the force abilities, force push, force pull, grip, lightning, lightsabers, lightsaber throw. It was a really cool way of battling. And actually, I would say that this duel is probably superior to sort of more recent Battlefront 1 and 2 duels that you can have. It just feels much better, I think, in my opinion, as much as that game's quite fun. So yeah, really cool game. Really recommend. Next one, next Star Wars game. I don't have Bounty Hunter. Must disclaim that, as much as I like that game. But I have this in my collection. This is Star Wars The Clone Wars. In my opinion, this is the worst Star Wars game on the GameCube at the very least, but it's not the best game. It's all right, but doesn't really do anything too well. So there is a 4-player mode. You can play sort of in various battles. I haven't played it too much, if I'm honest. As you can probably guess, it's set during the Clone Wars, so episode 2 and 3, that kind of era. And there's lots of sort of battles in sort of air and land vehicles. You fight in the Clone Wars. Graphically, it's a bit meh. Gameplay wise, it's a bit meh. It's all right. It just doesn't do anything too special compared to all the other GameCube titles Star Wars titles on the GameCube. But yeah, if you want a cheap Star Wars game that's based on the prequel trilogy, that exists. Next up, we have got one of 2 of the first games I ever had on the GameCube, or my brother had at least. So this is Star Wars Rogue Leader, or Rogue Squadron 2 Rogue Leader. So the original Rogue Squadron, I believe, only came out on PC and on Nintendo 64. Maybe on the Dreamcast too, actually. But this is phenomenal. So this was a launch title for the GameCube. Graphically, it was just an absolute masterpiece. Very cinematic, based on lots of sort of iconic scenes from the original trilogy. And to this day, it looks brilliant. And it plays brilliantly. It's really good fun. Sort of flying over Bespin was absolutely brilliant. The trench run, battling on Hoth, taking down AT-ATs. It was brilliant. It's a really challenging game as well. So it's really sort of harsh on you in terms of your accuracy, your shot accuracy. So yeah, it's fantastic, really replayable, some really great unlockables, and just a really iconic, fantastic game. So even if you don't like Star Wars, I would say that this is a fantastic game, Star Wars aside. But if you're a Star Wars fan, this is just an absolute must. It's an exclusive, only came out on GameCube, as much as they don't actually have that anywhere on the case. But yeah, only ever came out on GameCube, and it's absolutely brilliant. In fact, I feel like this really does deserve a place on the GameCube system on Switch 2 as well. But I don't know, maybe it's a licensing thing. Maybe we won't get it. And the last Star Wars game in my collection, which is a little bit of an underdog, is this Star Wars Rogue Squadron 3 Rebel Strike. So this game was a sequel to Rogue Leader. Let's start with the co-op mode, actually. So there's a co-op mode, two-player co-op mode, whereby you get the entirety of Star Wars Rogue Leader, but playable in two-player co-op. So essentially, if you love this game or missed out on it, you can play the whole game in co-op with a friend on this. Can't play it single player, so just watch out for that. You also have some fantastic two-player modes where you can battle one another. So you could be having like a dogfight across Bespin, having a speeder bike race on Endor. There's some really cool, fun multiplayer modes, but unfortunately only two-player. But brilliant, loads of hours of fun had here. And then the single-player campaign is really cool. So it kind of builds upon Rogue Leader, but there's also aspects of there's elements of there's moments in the game where you're sort of in a chicken walker, or maybe you're on a tauntaun, or you're running around on foot. I would say that the on foot controls are quite clunky, and they take a lot to get to be desired. But overall, there's quite a variety. It's really good fun. There's a lot of unlockables. The kind of unlockable, the unlock tree and the journey and pathways that you can go on in terms of unlocking the levels is really satisfying. So it's an absolutely brilliant game. It has Game Boy Advance compatibility that I don't even know what that looks like on this game. But I just really do recommend it. It's fantastic. I just don't think it really gets spoken about much. So yeah, give it a go. Next is an absolute classic. It's a bit of a Marmite title, but this is Super Mario Sunshine. So this was the next main Mario game to follow Mario 64. It was significantly different to 64, and for that reason, people either loved it or hated it, or just didn't really appreciate it much. I personally loved it. I thought it was brilliant. It was quite challenging for me as a kid, but in recent years, I played it to completion, and I just think it's absolutely fantastic. So you're Mario, you're in this fancy sort of Delfino resort, so you're on like a sort of tropical island essentially. You get to ride Yoshi. You've got this really cool pack on your back called Flood, which allows you to do all these really special, unique abilities that involve water. It looks fantastic, it plays fantastically, and it's just a really iconic and original game. Really cool. There's loads of modern ways of playing this game now that we have the All-Stars collection, but it's absolutely brilliant, and it has been revealed to be joining the Nintendo GameCube Classics sort of roster, I guess, on the Switch 2. We just haven't got a release date yet, so give it a couple of months and I think it will be there. But yeah, Mario Sunshine, absolute classic, and this was all we had up until Galaxy came out on the Wii. Right, next up, to be honest, one of the best games ever made, in my opinion. I think it's absolutely brilliant. Super Monkey Ball. This was a really special game in many ways. This was, I think it might have been the first game that Sega released on Nintendo console. For a long time, they were rivals. They were really competing with one another, and releasing kind of similar games in terms of like the demographic they were targeting, etc. And this was a collaboration between Nintendo and Sega, and it was phenomenal. It was a brilliant game. It came out really early on. It might have been a launch title, actually. Only released on GameCube. And it's phenomenal. So for anyone who doesn't know what this is, you play as a monkey in a ball. And you rotate the map. You don't move the monkey around. You move the map and manipulate where the monkey is by sort of rotating this map. And you've got to try and get the monkey through the goal. And it's really challenging. It's a really difficult game. Kid-friendly, but really hard to master. There's also tons of really cool party modes where you can sort of take it in turns to try and get as far through the levels as possible. You can play lots of like sport mini games like sort of billiards, monkey fight, monkey race, monkey target, which is a bit of a classic, monkey bowling, monkey golf is there as well. There's tons of really cool party games in this. I would say the party games hit a bit harder in Super Monkey Ball 2, but in terms of iconic sort of level design, it's absolutely brilliant game. I know Monkey Ball games in recent years have kind of flopped a little bit. They kind of lost their sparkle, but Monkey Ball 1 and 2 are just incredible. And especially on the GameCube, there's just something about the GameCube sort of analog stick and the way that it kind of is split into, it's quite like hexagonal in terms of, or octagonal. Basically, it's got the 8 sides, hasn't it? It's sort of quite clicky, quite clunky. And just it's a really responsive analog stick with this game in mind. You really feel like you have complete control over the map. So Super Monkey Ball. And then Super Monkey Ball 2, which in my opinion just builds upon the original in every way and is even better. Some people prefer the original, but I loved this, and the party games just really did it for me on this. So yeah, really good single player campaign again. You can have 4-player alternating as well, going through the stages, but you've got 12 party games. So all of the original party games return, but are built upon and are much better, and there's just much more variety. But then you've also got loads of other additional games, and some of them were fantastic. So you've got dogfight, boat race, you've got tennis, which is I really loved tennis on this. You've got football, baseball, essentially just a really fantastic party game, really good fun. It doesn't get much better than this. It's a fantastic game. This is a game I haven't played much at all. So this is the only other Super Monkey Ball game that released on the GameCube, and this is Super Monkey Ball Adventure. And I don't know too much about this, but what I do know is that there's a single player campaign. There's 4 players, up to 4 players simultaneously. I'm really excited about playing this at some point, as I was a big fan of the others, but I do know that it was sort of quite poorly received in comparison. From what I know, there's new ball abilities, but I think there's kind of like an overworld, and you explore the overworld a bit similarly to sort of Diddy Kong Racing, whereby all the kind of stages and levels are kind of interconnected through this one big overworld. And it's all about going on this wild adventure. That is my understanding of the game. If I've got that horribly wrong, please let me know, because it'd be good to know. But Super Monkey Ball Adventure, it was a must in the collection. I don't know, excited to play it, but I'm aware that I probably am not going to like it as much as the others. The next game I'm going to cover is my all-time favourite video game. And there's probably people that already are guessing what this is and probably already know. Especially people that know me, they're going to know this inside and out. Super Smash Bros. Melee. Super Smash Bros. Is an absolutely fantastic franchise, but this is the game that I always come back to, that I absolutely adore. Some would argue it's imbalanced in some places, but I know exactly where I stand with everything, and it's just incredible. I think sort of graphically it's just a technological marvel. Some of the best multiplayer you could ever ask for. It's still got a really active competitive scene, and people just absolutely adore this. If you watch some of the world best play this game, it's like an art form. I'm not that great at this game at all, but I adore it, and I really appreciate everything that it's done. The trophy system kind of introduced people, especially like the Western world, to a lot of kind of franchises and key characters from different franchises that I don't think people would have been as aware of had they not been there. But yeah, really great roster, built really nicely on the N64 roster. Loads of really cool items that were available. There was the introduction of an adventure mode that was really good fun, real breath of fresh air. You had the introduction of the All-Star mode, which is basically where you have to battle against every single character in the roster without getting taken out, and that was added within this game. Some really fun sort of party games and party modes, but essentially there's just so much to do in this game. It's just absolutely riddled with content. I think really hard to 100%, but just a really wonderful combination of sort of unlocking stuff based on skill and then just surprise and not knowing what comes next. So I just think Melee's brilliant. And actually, on countless times, I've deleted my save and started from scratch just because that journey is just so much fun. I think I've probably done that about 5 times with this game. So Super Smash Bros. Melee, if you love sort of beat 'em up fighters, this is incredible. I would say it's hard to compare this to Ultimate because I do feel like Ultimate is like the quintessential experience. Smash experience, because that's kind of what it's aimed to be. But I don't know, this one it really just feels special, and the GameCube controller, it just feels like the way to play Smash. And to this day I still play my Smash Ultimate with the GameCube controller because it just feels so right. So there we go. I would love to see this return on the GameCube service on the Switch too, simply because I just think having online multiplayer available within Melee would be incredible for the competitive scene. But I just think in terms of just the appreciation for sort of the series and, you know, its legacy, I think it would just be wonderful to have this and Smash 64 available soon. So fingers crossed. You never know, we might get an announcement about the new Smash in the near future. Next game, Tales of Symphonia. So this is another JRPG that I don't know much about. All I know is that people adore it. So this is a game that has a huge cult following, a really fantastic soundtrack. It's meant to be really, well, just really great. There's some really great cutscenes, really great animation style. I believe it's kind of all sort of turn-taking JRPG. I don't know, it kind of, to me, it just feels very kind of Final Fantasy in terms of its structure. It's meant to have a fantastic story, beautifully animated, really fantastic soundtrack. There's lots of Tales games, but Symphonia is one of the ones that it seems to get a lot of love. It's been remastered a couple of times too, which sort of suggests there's quite a demand for it. And actually, it's 4-player battles. So you can play 2 to 4 players simultaneously, but only in battles, with just one person controlling the main character in the overworld. So really cool that this exists. Really excited to play it because this is one of the top 10 games I've never played, and at some point we will. And I'm excited about that. Really excited about that. Over 80 hours of gameplay. And it's emotionally charged, apparently, too. So there you go. Right, next up, one of the final latest entries in my collection. And this is Taz Wanted. So I've just started branching out and collecting some of the cheaper titles that interest me, but that were less essential. Taz is a Looney Tunes character, so I grew up with Looney Tunes cartoons. Really loved Space Jam in particular, the original film. And this is a game I remember playing the demo of on PlayStation 2. And it was good fun. I've always thought Taz is pretty fun as well. There's 2-player modes. There's lots of fun sort of like challenges and party modes that you can play together with a friend. Silly costumes, a single-player sort of campaign. Just looks like a lot of fun. So I thought, yeah, let's give Taz some love. Let's get him in the collection. And I think I'm probably going to try and get all the Looney Tunes games. Same with sort of Scooby-Doo and, you know, all these other kind of franchises that I've loved as a kid, and it'd just be really cool to experience some of these games. Less urgently than some of the other titles I have, but Taz. Next up, where do I start? So again, one of my favourite games of all time. Not a GameCube exclusive at all, but Time Splitters 2. It's getting to a point now where I'm worried there's going to be a lot of people in the world that just aren't familiar with Time Splitters and the Time Splitters franchise. But growing up, this was absolutely incredible. It was such a good game. It had such charm. I loved the animation style. It was really silly and quite quirky. In terms of like its target audience, it just did a really good job of sort of like catering to adults, but also being kind of cartoony enough to kind of appeal to children too. So it kind of just felt like it ticked all the boxes. It was a really great story game, but it also presented tons of challenge as well. And to 100% complete these games is still tricky. I do wish the original Time Splitters came to GameCube and not just on PlayStation 2. Time Splitters 1 wasn't that great compared to the others, so it doesn't matter. Tons of unlockable characters, tons of unlockable modes, cheats, levels, arcade modes, I don't know, all sorts of stuff. And it's just absolutely fantastic. If you haven't played Time Splitters before, this is honestly one of the best games I've ever played in my life. I've played it countless times. It's a really fun, you can play the whole campaign in 2-player co-op as well. 4-player split screen, tons of really fun party modes like Shrink, where the worst player is really small, so it's really hard to shoot them, and the best player is massive and really easy to shoot, and it's just a way of like really balancing out sort of your skill. It's a really fascinating game. There's a game mode called Virus, which you can probably guess someone's got the virus. They're on green fire, and you need to desperately make sure that you're not getting infected, and that's a really good game mode. There's one called Monkey Assistant, where the loser just gets like a whole bunch of monkeys that just come in as reinforcements and help you scrape out of bottom place. There's just so much going on in this game, and it's absolutely fantastic. And it even came with a level creator, which wasn't that great, a map creator that wasn't that great. Given the nature of the Time Splitters as well, like you are just going through loads of portals and exploring lots of different periods of time, so each level just feels really iconic, really unique. But yeah, I can't recommend this game enough. I genuinely think it's one of the best games I've ever played. I absolutely adore it. Which takes us on to the game that came out afterwards, and it was the last Time Splitters title. This is Time Splitters Future Perfect, and it's a brilliant game. It's absolutely brilliant. I don't think it's as strong as the second game, but the roster's probably more interesting. There's tons of unlockables, lots of really fun things. My only criticism of this game really is that it tries to do a bit too much. So the map creator's better, I would say. There's remote controlled cats. There's like buggies and cars and vehicles that you can go in. Some really cool weapons and sort of alternative fire weapons. Just tons of really cool stuff that really works, and some of it that just kind of feels like it's there because it's new and different. So I adore this game. It's absolutely fantastic. And if Time Splitters 2 didn't exist, I'd probably hold this, up as high as 2. But it's absolutely brilliant. A very worthy sequel. 2 just does it for me. Maybe it's just it hit harder because of when it came out. It was a high bar. It was a really high bar and really hard to kind of top. Again, we're on a bit of a roll now. So this is one of the best gaming franchises I've ever played. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3. So this came out really early on in the game's lifetime. And this is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3. So 1 and 2 only came out on sort of PlayStation 1. I think 2 might have come out on PlayStation 2, just about 2. But this is the first entry on the GameCube, and it's absolutely brilliant. By this point, they've really kind of landed on how to make an effective Tony Hawk's game, and it's just better than ever. So you've got some really iconic maps, some really iconic skaters, you've got loads of control over what kind of skating tricks you're doing. You can create your own skate park and your own skater as well. But there's also some fantastic unlockables too. There's some really cool surprises here. So you can play as, I don't even know whether to spoil them or not, but I feel like this game's so old at this point it's not on me so much maybe. You can unlock sort of Wolverine, you can unlock Darth Maul, some really cool characters, and ironically both owned by Disney now, but not back then. So in some ways I was just baffled that they both didn't return when they remade this game. I just thought if anything, surely from a licensing perspective maybe it's even easier, unless Disney got a bit greedy. Yeah, this is fantastic. There's some 2-player modes as well where you can kind of compete with one another. One of my favourite sort of competitive modes is called Horse, and you've got to try and get the best score, and then the loser gets a letter, and you've got to make sure you don't lose 5 times and spell out the word horse, otherwise you're the horse. Good fun. And with another friend who's really good at this game, like it's surprisingly entertaining, even as a party title. But yeah, absolutely brilliant. And I will fly through the next one. Tony Hawk's 4, Pro Skater 4, fantastic. I would say probably as good, if not slightly better. Maybe 3 kind of hit harder because of what it brought to the system, but 4 just built upon it and did a fantastic job of it. There's some fantastic maps here, new tricks, new skaters, new maps, all that kind of stuff. You could like hold on to the back of vehicles as well. But essentially, yeah, just built upon that winning formula, and it was stronger than ever. So 4 was brilliant too. Strongly recommend that too. Also had some really cool, unique humour, unlockables, hidden areas, all that kind of stuff. And then Tony Hawk's took a bit of a diversion, so to speak. So this is Tony Hawk's Underground, and I loved this. This was a continuation of the franchise, but in a slightly different direction. And essentially it was kind of like, what if Tony Hawk's had its own kind of single-player campaign, like a rags to riches mode, where you go from being like a nobody to becoming like one of the best skaters in the world, with iconic sort of friendships and partnerships with some of the best skaters in the world. And it was brilliant. It was fantastic creating your own skater and just watching them become something special. The maps are really good. It just is an absolutely brilliant game, and it takes itself quite seriously compared to the sequel, but it's, I think, you know, rightfully so. It's absolutely brilliant. And then we had Underground 2, which is very much, it just builds upon the original. But I would say it's a bit more wacky, it's a bit more crazy. Loads of really sort of silly things happen in this. And I think some people probably found it a bit too wild. A little bit like sort of how Saints Row evolved over the years. But I thought this was absolutely brilliant. Just so much fun, so silly, so much arcade stuff. If you're a fan of Jackass, you've got sort of Johnny Knoxville in this game, or Bam Margera. Like, basically, you've got Jackass representation within the game. You might even have Wee Man, I can't quite remember. But you can see there's lots of silly things going on. Fireworks, explosions, can sort of control lots of odd sort of vehicles. You can do tagging and design your own tags, I believe. You can play in the original sort of classic mode, but also the unique sort of story mode that takes you to some really cool locations. Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. It's essentially Jackass meets Tony Hawk's, and it works. It really did well for me. I loved that. And then for whatever reason, the last Tony Hawk's game in my collection that I never played, and I still haven't, Tony Hawk's American Wasteland. And if I'm honest, I do not know much about this game at all. I believe it's just one seamless large world that you can explore. I have no idea how it compares to the other Tony Hawk's titles. I know it wasn't received as well as some of the others, and I know that there weren't many Tony Hawk's games to follow. So I couldn't reliably say too much about this at all, but I am really looking forward to playing through all the Tony Hawk's games at some point in order and treating myself to something new. It'll be really cool. You can also ride on bikes, which is quite cool. Why, I don't know, but they included that too. So, interesting. Next, I have Turok Evolution, another game I haven't played, but I'm quite excited to. Turok's always sort of intrigued me. Dinosaurs and guns, what could go wrong? There's 4-player multiplayer action as well. Really interesting single player, some really cool unique weapons. And yeah, just excited to give that a go, but I haven't. But if you have, let me know what you think. How does Turok Evolution compare to other Turok titles? It worries me that we didn't really see much of Turok after this game, which might be telling, but always looked pretty cool to me, so I was quite intrigued to pick that one up. This is another game I didn't have as a kid, but it's supposed to be fantastic, and this is Ultimate Spider-Man. And this is much more based on the original comics as opposed to sort of Tobey Maguire films, but essentially it's meant to be a really good Spider-Man game. Once again, lots of free roam around New York City with that really cool, iconic comic book theme, and it's meant to be brilliant. I haven't played it much. I do intend on playing through all the Spider-Man games on stream, and once again treating myself to Ultimate Spider-Man at the end, because a lot of people say it's the best Spider-Man game. I just love the art style. I think it's going to have aged really well, a bit similarly to Wind Waker. I just think that kind of animated, cartoony style, just a little bit kind of eternalized on the system. So next up, a game people absolutely adore. I love the colour yellow, so I do wish I had the other variation of the case, but Viewtiful Joe. So earlier I mentioned the Capcom 5 games developed by Capcom to be exclusive on the GameCube, and Viewtiful Joe is one of the 3 games that actually released of those 5, I believe. And Viewtiful Joe is quite a unique game. I've never played it. People adore it. I'm going to play through it at some point on stream. And essentially, it's kind of a cel-shaded fighting game. You play as a character that gets kind of pulled into a comic book, into an action film. I believe it kind of does a really good job of breaking the fourth wall. You playing as a character within this comic, and it's got quite telling humour as well. So it's meant to be quite a challenging game too, really tricky. It is strictly single player. You can manipulate time, you can speed up time, slow down time, lots of fighting combos. This is a game that gets a lot of love online, and I'm just intrigued. I really am intrigued. In fact, I'm kind of wondering if I was really hoping that the alternate sleeve was actually just the flip side of the. I would have been over the moon to discover that then, but there you go. Then we move on to Viewtiful Joe 2, and I believe it's just more of that great formula. It was received really well. I don't think it came out much later in the console's life, so there's less copies, it's worth more money, but I think the first one's meant to be more iconic. But yeah, essentially building upon the same sort of recipe, and was also really well received. So there we go, Viewtiful Joe 2. And then last but not least, with the Viewtiful Joe games, we've also got, and I think this is the more obscure title, you've got Viewtiful Joe Red Hot Rumble. And this is kind of if Viewtiful Joe had its own party game. So it's 4-player, simultaneous, lots of sort of battle arenas. It actually kind of looks a little bit similar to sort of a Super Smash Brothers kind of setup, where it's just everyone on one screen hitting each other and trying to be the last man standing. But I thought, you know, if I fall in love with the Viewtiful Joe franchise, this could be really good fun. Like, this is the kind of way I'd like to share that with friends, if, you know, once I care about it. So, yeah, so that's in the collection. And once again, it is getting a bit harder to find. It's creeping up in price, as many GameCube games are. 6 titles remaining, and this is Wario World. This is a really cool game. I haven't actually played it. It is available on the GameCube Classic sort of system on the Switch 2, which is great. Wario hasn't had his own game like this, especially not on like one of the home consoles, for a very long time. And this is quite a short, quite an easy platformer game where you play as Wario, believe it or not. You also get a demo for Wario Ware on the Game Boy Advance for having this, which is quite cool. But essentially, a really short game, simple platforming, you play as Wario, and it's just meant to be pretty good, a pretty solid experience. And I think people really only criticise it for being just so short and sweet. They just kind of wanted more, but there you go. Wario Ware. So once again, we get a fantastic IP, and then suddenly, let's make it a really fun party. So this is Wario Ware. This is the GameCube variant. Really cool. I didn't have this as a kid. I feel like this would be like one of the most nostalgic games for me if I did have it as a kid, because I love this kind of silly sense of humour. 4 players, really good party fun. And I think one of my favourite things about this game is that with some of the WarioWare titles, you need to have really specific tech. You need to have sort of like motion controls enabled. You need to all have Joy-Cons. You all need to have this or that. And with this, we are just in a position again where you just need some controllers, and then everyone can join in the party fun. You can connect the Game Boy Advance as well for some sort of extra mini games. It's just not essential. So there you go. You can also throw the controller around between, I think, 16 players. So yeah, it's 4-player, but it's very much encouraged to just play in a big group and have a laugh. And there's just lots of silliness involved. So I haven't played it much. If I had friends around all the time, I'd be playing it all the time. Let's face it. But as an oldie, that doesn't happen as often as I'd like. This was a launch title, and it's one of the first games I had in my collection. And this is Wave Race Blue Storm. The sequel to Wave Race 64 on the Nintendo 64, and it is fantastic. We've never seen Wave Race since. People really love this game, and one of the things I think was just the most iconic about this game was just the water physics. The water looked incredible in this game and is aged so well. And to be honest, I think at a glance you'd think a jet ski game would be quite sort of quite vanilla, predictable, and just not that exciting. But actually, this is brilliant. Absolutely fantastic game. So yeah, can be played at parties, 4-player, really good water physics, looks fantastic, and really kind of helped to sell the console, I think. And yeah, it's just a really solid game. It's a shame that we didn't have another one, really, but at the same time, I don't know how this could be built upon other than sort of modernising the graphics a little bit. I think this would be really welcome on the Switch 2, in the GameCube Collection. I just don't know how much of a demand there is for it compared to other titles, but again, Extreme Sports winning on the GameCube. The final 3, and none of these are exclusives actually. They're all quite cool, but in different ways. So this is Worms 3D. I had this on the Xbox or the PlayStation or the GameCube, maybe all of them. I don't know. I played it on something, and it's really good fun. I love Worms, and this was just a really nice sort of twist on everything. Suddenly, you know, playing with your favourite weapons in a 3D world was really cool. Some really fantastic level design and sort of story missions, really great roster of weapons, lots of like customization that was really much appreciated. It's a dirt cheap game that doesn't really get spoken about at all. Honestly, it's fantastic. It's a brilliant game. I really recommend it. I do feel like people would probably prefer the 2D sort of classic. I just think there's certain weapons that kind of get lost a little bit in a 3D kind of environment, but other than that, this game is just really good fun, an absolute party hit, and yeah, really strongly recommend it. Worms 3D, really enjoyed that as a kid. And just some really cool iconic maps. I think there's a King Kong one that's really cool. Penultimate game, X-Men Next Dimension. So this is a game that, if I'm honest, I didn't have as a kid, and it was just one of those games that as a kid, I just always looked at it and thought, oh, that looks cool, I wish I had that. Now I'm an adult, and I have lost my inhibitions. I have it in my collection, because why not? As I'm sort of cleaning the case a little bit and scraping it clean. So this is a fighting game, sort of a side-scrolly 2-player fighting game where you play as different X-Men heroes. There was a game that was similar to this that came out earlier on the PlayStation 2, which I really enjoyed the demo of. And it was one of those demos where they kind of almost accidentally gave you like the whole game in the demo. So it just felt pointless to buy the game, but just you could spend hours and hours and hours playing the demo. And I remember thinking that game was incredible. Can't remember what it was called. And Next Dimension was kind of the sequel to that, I believe. And it just looked like good fun. Definitely graphically not sort of, anything too outstanding. But if you like Marvel, like X-Men, like fighting games, like learning your combos and all that jazz, this is cool. And it's another fighting game as an option. In addition to Mortal Kombat and Soul Calibur, it's just perhaps a little bit more child-friendly. There's also a Capcom fighting game too that I don't have, and probably some others too. And last but not least, 13. So 13 is quite a cool game. Again, cel shaded, aged really well. Like the graphical style has aged really well. The story was really good, really fun, quite sort of iconic in terms of the animation style. So it looks a little bit like a sort of a cartoon strip in terms of when certain events occur. Really cool game, and actually also had a multiplayer mode. To me, it kind of just felt like it didn't hit as hard, but it was a bit like GoldenEye, a bit like Perfect Dark. And I thought it was a fantastic game. It was really cool. And actually, it recently got a re-release on the Switch, it was like a full price title. It's about 35, 40 quid. But actually, it's on sale right now for about 6 quid. And I was tempted. But why buy that when I've got this lovely little beauty? So there you go. So this is number 113. 113 GameCube games in my collection. And once I'm back from the honeymoon, I intend on collecting some more, I think. Some games that I've had in the past, but had to sell and will hopefully get back. You've got Resident Evil 2, Paper Mario, Thousand Year Door, Four Swords Adventures. There's quite a few that, I wish I still had, but I will have to obtain again. But there you go. So that's where I'm at. 113 GameCube games, loads that I've played and I adore, loads that I've heard are amazing and that I'm yet to play. And I'm just really excited to share some of them with you and be really just kind of exploring this collection a little bit deeper. I've done a lot of kind of editing and videos recently, and I just felt it was really great to just have a kind of very raw video where we just look at games, talk about games, and kind of almost just break the ice a little bit. So it's been quite refreshing to go for this kind of approach instead. As always, if you like this kind of content and you're interested in GameCube, or maybe you're just kind of curious about some retro gaming or games that maybe have slipped by you over the years, please subscribe, drop us a like, share around if you think you've got a friend that might like this channel, and get in touch, comment below, all that jazz. And until next time, GC McGee out. GC McGee.